Good evening. This is a Groton Board of Education special meeting. I'll wait for everybody to settle in. Right, again, good evening. This is a Groton Board of Education special meeting being held on Monday, July 13th, 2026 at 6:01 p.m. And in person tonight we have Jen White, myself, Beverly Washington, Mitch Shinbrat, and Adrian Johnson. And online we have Ian Thomas, Mike Whitney, and Dr. Ackerman. And for staff this evening, thank you all for giving up your nice summer night to come to this board meeting. We have Shannon Weigel, I always pronounce your last name. Weigel, excuse me. And we have Dr. Emily Mancini, we have the superintendent, Susan Austin. We have a special guest, I'll let Susan take care of that. And we have Rita Posiak. And thank everyone for coming. And we have, our own special Dr. Clint. And thank you everyone for coming tonight. I appreciate it. Susan appreciates it. And
thank you.
I'll let Susan start us off.
So I would like you to meet Dr. Lisa Schultz, who comes to us from Warwick, Rhode Island, and other places, many years of experience. She will be the principal of Catherine Kolnowski STEAM Magnet School, and I sent out an email, but I made a mistake because it was Adrian who worked with us in the final interview and got a chance to meet Dr. Schultz. Schultz. And so we're really excited to have her. She's had experience across the grades. She's been middle school assistant principal, a principal of a blue ribbon school, and she served at central office as a specialist with MTSS, which we're really excited about, and also as a director of elementary ed. But she really wants to be back with the kids and the teachers where the action is in the school. So we just felt thrilled. And we had a very diverse committee of teachers, paraeducators, admin, and I think there were 3 tiers at least that we put you through. We put you through the ringer. And then you did a presentation on entry plan and how you would, be introduced. And so we really are so excited to have you here and to have your expertise and ready to kind of meet your staff and students and teachers, and I know you have a great ideas of how to connect with them. I think you said popsicles on the playground.
Popsicles with the principal.
Yes. With the principal, and I know you'll be a welcome addition, and teachers will love having you there.
I'm very, very excited.
And kids too, and parents.
You want to say anything?
Oh my goodness. I was counting on the way here how many years it's been for me, and this is my 24th year, so I'm really excited. I taught for 10 years, mainly at the elementary level, and I've been an administrator. This will be my 14th year, and just really excited to go back to why I started my journey in education in the first place, which is because I love working with students, and I really enjoy working with teachers, and I think that we can make some magic happen. So thank you for putting your trust in me.
We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Very glad.
Thank you. Excited.
And we wanted you to meet her early on, on her journey. She's going to take a little bit of a breather, go on a vacation, and then rally and be back in August. We'll hit the ground running.
I'm heading to Costa Rica soon, and I will be getting off the plane and coming basically straight to
Well, have a good trip.
Thank you.
And welcome aboard.
Thank you so much.
We're happy.
Yeah.
You'll love Catherine Kolnowski.
Yeah,
it's a great school.
Yep, Dan, Vanessa, great tour, and I get to meet some awesome staff members already, so I'm excited.
Yeah.
And the Treehouse program is there, so you even got to meet some kids.
Yes.
They might not be all yours, but they're
I loved it, and it was happening in the summer. It's just nice to have that positive energy from the students there.
Okay. Well, again, welcome.
Thank you.
The next, I'm going to switch the agenda around again. I'll do the 3 motions, but then I'm going to take Susan's end of the year celebration and move it to the end of the agenda.
All right.
And Anne Marie, she's going to do tier 2 and tier 3 interventions. And then because you know about world language, I'm going to move Anne Marie up. So both of her, please, are you going to talk about world language? Who's going to do discussion of world language?
I can talk about it.
Well, I think it was on there because Adrian Johnson had some questions about it, so I think we're just going to talk about what we have going on now.
Well, I'm going to move it up just in case you have some input.
And if you have other
I can
questions.
do that.
Okay. All right, so
Are you talking about the food service?
I think I'm going to be doing that.
okay. All right, so the first item, discussion and possible action regarding FY26 budget transfers between functions in the amount of $894,491. It's attachment 1. Mitch, can you read the motion for me, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the FY26 budget transfers in the amount of $894,491.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jen? Okay. Rita, you want to take us through it?
A few pages. So it's basically the departments at the end of the year, moving their funds around. I think I have a reallocation. We're reallocating their funds to spend them. A lot of facilities in here, but I think I have one true-up benefits one that was pretty large, of $200,000. Other than that, the other ones are from the departments. But if you have any questions on any of them, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions for Rita?
I want to make a comment.
Go ahead.
So it's like 894,000, but that's a combination of both June and May because we weren't able to process the June one. So I don't want people to think that it's 900,000. It's 600,000 from one and then almost 300 for this period.
And it's coming at the end of the year when we really are actualizing and finalizing.
Yeah, and there will be, when we close all of the POs and close fiscal year 26, probably by the end of July, I'll have a true-up, another true-up. So this is not going to be it for FY26. I just wanted to let you know that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments for Rita? You set, Mitch?
Yep.
Good. All right. So all those in favor of approving FY26 budget transfers between functions in the amount of $894,491. If you're online, can you raise your hand? If you approve that, if you're here to say, raise your hand too. Okay, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6, 7 of us. Okay. Mike, are you voting, Mike?
He already did, I think.
Okay,
You did, Henry.
okay. Sean joined the meeting at 6:04, just to let you know. Sean, are you voting on the budget transfers? I guess not. Okay. So 7-0, it passes. All right, the next one is discussion and possible action regarding the approval of the T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program. Jen, can you read that motion for me, please?
Motion to approve the T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program in the amount of $50,000.
Okay, do I have a second?
A second.
Mitch. Okay, and Shannon, you want to take us through that?
Sure. So this is a $50,000 grant that Groton Public Schools received from the T-Mobile Corporation. Funds are to be applied towards a practice field for our robotics program. We submitted the application in March, I believe, and we were notified of the award in late May. We had a special event with T-Mobile down at at one of the Esker Point summer series where they, it was their national announcement day when they announced all the awards across the country. It was a very competitive program. In fact, this is the last year that T-Mobile is running the Hometown Grants program, and they said they had the greatest number of applicants they've ever had, so we were very fortunate to receive this. During that event, they also told us about other funding opportunities, which, having received this now, I think will put us on T-Mobile's radar, so hopefully this will yield additional funds for Groton. The project period ends May 31st, I believe, of 2027. And we're going to be looking to secure additional funds for the practice field because we understand that the practice field in total, the one that we're considering, is between $200,000 and $250,000. So we are actively seeking other funds to support that effort. Are there any questions?
Mitch?
So the only thing that money can be spent on is the robotics practice field.
Yeah, but including components of the practice field.
Okay. Do we have a certain time frame during which that has to be spent?
With the project is supposed to end at the end of the year, and at the end of the school fiscal year, so June 30th, 2027.
This one talks
Mitch, turn on your mic.
Oh,
This
Thank you.
grant is pretty open-ended. It talks about the inner workings of getting a field going. So where it goes, it doesn't matter. So it really will be for the robotics
Yeah,
program.
it's for the robotics
Yeah.
program and for the field, not necessarily the structure itself, but for field components.
okay. Thank you.
Ian, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me, sir?
No, I couldn't hear you at all.
Sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah?
All right. Yeah, my question, what were the obligations and parameters? At one point, I heard some talk that there may be like some expectation that this field would be like a regional field. Is that an expectation that comes? What obligations are with this grant?
So in the application, we did speak about, collaborating with other neighboring robotics programs. We didn't specify exactly what that would look like, but what we're imagining is that once a field is constructed or that we have a larger space for the team to practice, that we would invite other communities to participate in practice events periodically throughout the year, or possibly hosting summer camps like the robotics program has done in the past when they were able to, when they had time and space to do that.
So the language is relatively broad?
Very broad, yes. Yeah.
It kind of goes along with the theme of the first robotics corporation. It's called co-opetition, and it means collaboration. They foster collaboration as well as the competitiveness. But so we really thought that and this has happened with our robotics team when they've had larger spaces. They've invited other neighboring communities in to work with them. And if you go to any of those competitions, you can see side by side the teams are working together and talking to each other, the teammates. So it's really a very collaborative community competitive event, so this will just give them more space to be able to do that.
Can I just make a comment?
All right, well, thank you for that, and I look forward to seeing the progress on this. So we're glad to hear that it can be used for the infrastructure work as far as
Right.
getting things going.
That's right.
Yeah, and so we're working with other funding, hopefully sooner than later.
We've already begun.
Thank you.
You all said, Ian?
All good, thank you.
Okay. So I just want to be clear that this 50,000 is not going to be basically selling our space that we're going to try to invest in, where other communities can on demand utilize the space. It's more at the control of Fitch Robotics to say, hey, we're hosting an event, please join us. If they want to collaborate. I don't want like another town to be able to come in and say, hey, part of that grant allows us to utilize the space, and Groton Town or these other funding sources were raised specifically for robotics. I just want to ensure that, and I want to understand, right?
That's right, Jen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shannon. I know you said it in finance and facilities, but that wasn't recorded, so I just want to make sure that that's clear.
It's invitational. Invitational.
Yes.
Just like other events, like sports and things like that.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Mitch?
In response, or in conjunction with what you just said, Jen, I'm thinking, wouldn't it be up to the principal of the high school to determine if anybody else comes in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing is there any commitment at all for funds from the Board of Education to put into this program as a result of this grant?
No
There are
matching funds at all.
funds, no.
Nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Nothing? Okay.
Yeah, I had a quick one.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, maybe you said it, just kind of following what Mitch said a bit. So if we've got this amount of money that we're accepting, but it's not enough to cover appeals, we would have to come up with the funds some other way. If we don't, what happens with the grant funds? Can it be used for other things, or is it just we give them back? Like what happens in that reality?
Well, our plan would certainly not be to give them back. So we would work with the robotics team to see how they can best be spent on the field.
Sorry, say that again, not give them back?
Our goal would be to not give the funds back, so we would work with the robotics team to see how they could best be spent on the field.
I'm not understanding the field, but don't we have to build a field?
Yeah, the components of the field, anything.
The
related to
technology for making the robot
Wait,
work.
wait, Sharon's still.
Yeah, it's, like we were saying earlier, it's a pretty broad scope, so anything related to the practice field it can be used on. I'm pretty confident that the robotics program could come up with a way to spend these funds.
So even if the practice field were, say, in the gym next year?
That's right, yes. Hopefully not.
And then did you say timeline
Yeah.
for spending it? Oh,
Yep, by June 30th, 2027.
okay.
You want to add anything, Susan?
No, Jen said it perfectly.
All right, you all set, Mike?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving the T-Mobile Hometown Grant Program in an amount of $50,000? If you're online, raise your hand. If you're in person, raise your hand. There's 5 of us in person. Okay, 8-0 to 0. It passes. All right, the next item is discussion and possible action regarding approval of the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection Grant. Agent, do you read that motion for me, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection Grant in the amount of $191,030.
Second, Mitch. Okay. Clint, go ahead. Dr. Kennedy.
Hi, everybody. I appreciate Shannon initiating for me last week when I think this was introduced to the board for the first time.
Can I just butt in for a second? It's attachment 2.
I can display it.
Okay.
enhancing facilities, so there was only
Okay,
bid
got it.
for,
Thank
but so you could start
Good
from.
clarification. So I'm going to give you some very brief background, and we also have some breaking news, so I'm going to tweak things and certainly can answer any questions that remaining and so forth. So this was a grant opportunity through FEMA that came through the state of Connecticut, and we applied for it in 2023, and we submitted in 2024. Anyway, it has been delayed. We got news about 3 months ago that it would be funded, which we were very excited about because we take security, obviously cybersecurity and security in general, technology very seriously. We wrote this specifically based on our technology plan and where we headed, where we saw deficiencies from some of the audits that we did and so forth. It's a little out of date, obviously, because it was written 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. But once this opportunity came to us and it was approved, I said, of course, we should move forward on this and seek board approval and so forth. Part of the reason I wanted to push it as well is because there was I believe it was, the original date was November 27 when it needed to be expended by. We applied for and have been given, and most have been given as well, an extension to November of 2028 to expend these funds. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, Shannon. What I'd like to do, or at least have the board consider, is I think this makes sense to be in conjunction, because there is an in-kind component, a district component, if that matches a portion of the federal funding. I think it would make sense for this to be reintroduced or as part of an overall plan for when I introduce the technology budget for the fiscal year 28, can't believe I just said that, in the fall. The reason being, there are a lot of things happening at the state level. I am part of a statewide group that's looking at cybersecurity and having position papers for the state legislators around what you saw in here, a SOC, or a Security Operations Center, and this is not breaking news and it's not official yet or whatever, but we're really pushing CEN, which is the Connecticut Education Network, to be a Security Operations Center. So this was originally written where we would go to a third-party for-profit center. We would love to do it collaboratively in the state. And we're also seeing some real pains in the E-rate program, which I will talk about when I'm on later. But for the first of over 20 years that I've been in this business, the federal government has not approved the release of E-rate funds. It is now middle of July, and those are typically approved up or down in March, April. So with the advantage of an extension, with some of the variables that are unknown currently in this space, my personal feeling would be this would be better aligned to be considered for approval as part of the overall IT budget that we introduced this fall.
Sean?
I have two questions. What is the district matching amount?
So it's two parts. If you can, I want to make sure I'm getting it correct. It's 44,341 plus 3,417, which would be approximately, thank you, almost just shy of $48,000. And there is a list of what qualifies as in kind. And when this was originally written, we used that as part of that grant, and we spend a considerable amount more on cybersecurity from firewall services that we use through the antivirus software that we purchase on a yearly basis. It's a service, it's not a purchase, and so forth and so on. So assuming those rules are still in effect, I have all the confidence that we will be able to use that as what we are spending as part of our overall cybersecurity program currently. But of course, as we resubmit this, we would do our due diligence to make sure that we are not supplanting, but we are providing the documentation for that in-kind funding. It will not be above and beyond.
Good. That's good to know. The second question is, obviously, I think you said this was originally submitted in 2023. With 2024.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly. It was alongside the year 2023.
Yeah, it says December 1st, 2023.
Have you looked at your plan recently of what you submitted and kind of decided how that is going to change? So if we accept the
needs are similar, but again, as an example, a big portion of this is that SOC feature, which is, again, Security Operations Center. The advantage, in general of a security operations center is it's identifying threats before it enters our district. So as a security operations center has a larger footprint and they can see larger amount of traffic across, a defined area, be it the United States or be it Connecticut, or what have you, they can take action prior to some type of adverse event, which we've had in the past, which darn near everyone has had in the past, to do that. So that is the real advantage of that. They're early morning, they can block it before it hits our firewall, et cetera, et cetera. 100%, nothing in this business is 100%, but that is the real advantage to that type of service. And they're not cheap. They are not cheap at all. It's one of the reasons why we're lobbying to see if we can't add that as a feature set for the Connecticut Education Network, which provides internet access to all public school districts and libraries and towns and so forth. They do have some other services that they provide, but as a citizen and taxpayer of Connecticut, I think it would be a really important task for them to take on to help all of Connecticut.
I know I said I had 2 questions, but I have one more. And there's no plan with this grant to hire any staff, correct?
Zero FTEs in this grant.
What was the other amount you said, Clint, besides the 44,000?
The total amount, I'm cheating, thank you. The total amount that we would be responsible for would be $47,758. That's all.
Jen has a question.
So this has to do with finance and facilities, and I just want to have it confirmed that it's not going to be double dipping with the grant funding.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
No, these are additional components to the security plan that I would like to have in place yesterday that requires additional funding. Now, if I may elaborate a little bit, I always feel the need to balance that. I mean, we could spend the entire budget on security if we could, but obviously that defeats our mission. But I also want to make sure that we are putting in services and tools at our disposal that are also sustainable. Because some of the danger is we have a short-term gain with some dollars, and we put this in, but then all of a sudden it shows up in next year's budget and would have to be carried at the operations budget. So that's why I think having a thorough discussion about that and what the impact would be as we talk about the tech budget for fiscal year 28 makes sense. And we can have that, and we can talk about what the impact could be once this grant goes away.
Perfect.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
So the Security Operations Center is not really a physical structure, or is it a physical structure?
It's typically housed by an organization or a company or someone. The tools they use are virtual on a network and so forth. So again, CEN, Connecticut Education Network, does have a small office in Hartford. Their employees are technically UConn employees, so they do have a physical address and center, but their data center that they use is spread out around Connecticut, and they have disaster recovery sites around the country and hopefully around the globe. So I'm not trying to not answer your question, but
No, that's what the answer is, and that's what the answer is. So I think I have the totally correct question. So some of this money is going to go towards that?
would be as a service, yes.
Okay.
If and when it's approved, yes.
Okay. Are other school systems, if they get this, also going to contribute to the SOC?
So again, I'm painting a picture where by that point, I'm hoping that it's a service provided by the Connecticut Education Network. This was originally written so that we could contract with a third party, a for-profit SOC. My hope is that by the time if the board chooses to table this and we discuss it in the fall with the budget, at that point we will have more news and opportunities to have it in-state SOC, Security Operations Center. I can't predict whether that will actually come true or not.
So it seems as though this could cover us until such time.
If we chose to proceed as discussed in this, as planned, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
If we approve the $191,000, we're also committing the $47,000, the board's going to pay that $47,000.
That is correct, and why I'm recommending as an alternative that we table it so that you can see exactly what that $47,000 is being used for as part of a comprehensive fiscal year 28 IT proposed budget, as well as how this fits in. And we can ask, I would assume, some of the same questions that have come now to make sure that it's sustainable over time.
Okay.
So you don't feel this would have an effect on the 27 budget?
No. I mean, again, I could use it, but again, those variables that I discussed with E-rate funding still an open question. With the FCC, I do not know what the current administration is doing with E-rate, which we need to do more later. I don't know if I would be able to use this as optimally as I could as part of an overall plan.
Okay.
And you've already approved next year's budget, and we will continue the security posture as it exists.
Okay. So if we table it, that means that you're not accepting this grant money yet?
Correct.
Okay. Mike, you have a question?
Yeah, so we'd be tabling it to around November, you say? Or postponing it?
Correct.
So if we did that, this has to go through the RTM and town council. Maybe it gets through December, or is it going to hit them right at budget season? Like, wouldn't want this to kind of be tracking along at the same time budget season is happening.
If it helps, Mike, if I may, my expectation would be if this grant is approved and we're all comfortable with it, and it is approved by all three bodies, that I would have access to it to plan for the 27-28 school year.
Right, but I guess if we don't discuss it again until November, then it's timing-wise, it's probably not going to go through the town council and RTM in November. It may be December. It just seems like it could very easily go December, January, which kind of gets close to the budget time. And then just to briefly, you mentioned Yukon briefly. Could you just explain that involvement again, or is that just an example?
My understanding is that the Connecticut Education Network employees are technically Yukon employees. They at least have yukon.edu emails. So.
Okay. And we want any further information on that?
I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that. Connecticut Education Network is kind of a public-private partnership that all 169 LEAs in the state use for their internet access.
Oh, we already do.
Yeah. Yes. We have been for years. This is an existing organization. Yes.
So this doesn't commit newly to that?
Correct.
Okay. I'm trying to weigh conflict of interest possibilities. That's why I'm asking those questions.
No, we have been using CDN as well as the public libraries and so forth for many years.
Yeah.
So if you could just explain that you want this approved by all the town bodies so that when we're ready for the budgeting cycle, we can determine how that's going to be used. But we're not going to be spending any of the money until we set that goal.
That is a fair statement, yes.
Okay.
And again, I don't have perfect answers for all of this because I'm trying to buy some time in hopes that we get clarification on E-rate and other things.
Yeah.
And I do think it makes sense to align this with the fiscal year 28 IT budget ask so that we can put it all on the table and talk about what's covered, what's included, what's not, and so forth.
And we have the time frame in this grant that allows us to do that.
The extension gets, we need to, if we accept this and it's all approved and all done, we would need to extend that by November of 2028.
Okay.
Jen?
But you want us to approve it tonight, right?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, okay.
I'd like you to approve it by the time the budget rolls around, and I can answer your questions more clearly because it will be a comprehensive look at what we're trying to accomplish.
But going back to what Sean said, if we approve it tonight, or I think, or Mitch, then it needs to go through the other two town bodies, so it could potentially get approved in November. Then you'll know by the time we do budgeting, and it will be there in the January one, whereas if we hold off until October or November, we may not see it until March, and then it will pass the budget cycle, because we won't know if the other town bodies have approved it.
If you are concerned that it may not pass those town bodies, and you want to secure this and approve it and have me go to those town bodies over the next few months to get it locked in, I would be happy to do that if that's the wish of the board.
Yeah, okay.
Adrian, you have a question?
Yeah, we talked about this in finance and facilities already, and you've kind of answered some of those questions that came up then. To me, I would rather approve it, and because it seems like we're getting into the board, like you can handle it from here if we approve it, and it sounds like we're going to approve it anyway. It sounds like a great grant, so I would prefer just to approve it and let you work out the details, and maybe you can give us an update if we need it, but I think that the vote would probably be the same.
My
So I don't
preference
know.
would be if the board does approve it, I will follow that process and get it approved, report back, and then also address the fine details as part of the budget. Our discussions of the budget will fall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Ian? Yes, sir. Okay. Ian, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, no, I was going to say, pretty much what the agent said. I read it, with one that too, and was fine, I think. I'm ready to get this done, get it clear to the board, and let Dr. Kennedy kind of run with it. And I really see the process to use it as part of our budget process through council.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so all those in favor to approve the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection Grant in the amount of $191,030, raise your hand. All right, so 5 of us here, 3 of us online. So that passes 8 to 0 to 0. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I just say something before Sharon leaves?
Go ahead.
Sorry, I know. So we mentioned this in finance and facilities, and just want to acknowledge it here. Shannon and her team and all of the directors and Susan Wright. With Shannon's help and work, we've brought in roughly $350,000 through grants. Just even for this discussion, $191 for the IT, $50 for T-Mobile, and then $100,000 for the farm to table, which we didn't talk about. So very good work, and thank you for that. And if I missed any, I'll get it next time. But just wanted to publicly acknowledge that work.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions. It was supposed to, I think it was supposed to be ELA K-12, but it doesn't say that yet. But I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Mancini.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if I have sharing capabilities. I do. Share my screen. There we go. Okay, so today I'm going to present to you the work that we're doing regarding multi-tier systems of support. And that's, when we're talking about that, we are talking about the interventions that we're providing, not only in academics, but also interventions regarding social and emotional supports and attendance. So that gets at behavior and attendance. That's really comprehensive when we're talking about interventions in all areas. Mike, did you have a question before I begin, or is that your hand still up from before? Okay. So I just want to, as I always do, I want to just start off by giving you a preview of what I'm going to talk about tonight. First, I'm just going to give you general information about what MTSS is, in case you're not familiar with the multi-tier systems of supports. I want to talk to you a little bit about the essential elements of MTSS, and then I'm going to provide you with just general information about the 3 tiers of support. What are the strengths of the process? How do we monitor MTSS? And, how do then we ensure success for all learners? What are some examples of our models? And then provide you with an opportunity to ask questions. Of course, at any time during the presentation, I would encourage you to ask me questions if you have them. But, in general, I think that my presentation is pretty comprehensive, so it's likely that I'm going to answer your questions, during the presentation. I always like to start off by reminding you about our strategic plan. And as you might imagine, our MTSS process is built right into our strategic plan. Specifically, it falls into Pillar 1. And I remember very specifically when I was working with the committee on developing the strategic plan, we had several teachers that were very adamant that the MTSS process had to be fit into our plan. And they were very specific that this falls under Pillar number 1. Of course, we know that we're measured, or the success of our plan is measured through our key performance indicators. I'm very excited to share with you, hopefully very soon, how we did in year 1 of our strategic plan. Unfortunately, I can't share that information right now. All that information is embargoed. But, we'll kind of talk about not only our full basically tier 1 and how all of our students did, but we can eventually talk a little bit about how successful we were with our tier 2 and tier 3 interventions, regarding attendance and academics and even behaviors at some later date. So let's talk a little bit about defining what MTSS is. Our multi-tiered systems of support is really a proactive and preventative framework that organizes and delivers supports to all students. It is not a specific program or a curriculum, but it's about making sure that every student gets what they need. Really, it's a full child approach. It addresses academics, attendance, and behavior or social-emotional learning, and I think I said that at the outset of this presentation. It's a shift from being reactive to proactive, making sure that all students get what they need. And this is a general education initiative. Sometimes people they misunderstand that this is something for special ed students, and that's not the case. This is a program that is really designed for all students, making sure that, if a student maybe is struggling with their behavior, it doesn't have to be academics, or maybe a student has some attendance-based issues, that our teachers are recognizing, or our leaders are recognizing it early. We are implementing some strategies, and then we're making sure that we're monitoring them so that we get ahead of the problem right away.
Would this program be for, like, if a student was getting all A's and B's,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden started getting C's and D's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And in some cases, you'll see that I'm going to address this. Sometimes we have learners who are really accelerated, and we want to put some things in place to make sure that they continue growing. So what are some essential elements of the MTSS program? Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, student screenings. And I think that, this board is very familiar with the fact that we're doing student screenings in the beginning of fall, winter, spring. Of course, it's, as I mentioned before, that we have tiers of interventions that can be modified based on all of our students' needs. It involves ongoing data collection and assessment. We have a district-wide approach to our expectations and our supports. And then, of course, parent involvement is really key. Not only involvement of parents making sure they know when we're doing the screenings, making sure they know what interventions we are implementing, making sure, of course, they're notified when we bring one of their children into our intervention program, and then letting our parents know how can they help their child at home if the child needs support. So what are the 3 tiers of our MTSS system? The first tier, of course, is Tier 1, and that is every child is in Tier 1. That's our general program. So in literacy, for example, K-5 literacy, we all know that everyone is involved in the Wit and Wisdom program. Everybody gets that. So that's our high-quality curriculum and differentiated instruction in the general education classroom. 100% of the students receive that. In Tier 2, approximately 10 to 15% of the students are involved in this. These are targeted interventions for students who need a little bit more support than what Tier 1 alone provides. And these are often delivered in small groups and provide focused attention and specific skills. And then there's, of course, the Tier 3 or more intensive interventions. And this is, really about a maximum of 5% of the students who require more individualized or comprehensive interventions. Let me go on to talk a little bit more about this. Well, I'm going to talk about this, actually, I think it comes up in the next slides. So what are really the strengths of the MTSS process? There's about 5 of them that I was able to identify. Number 1 is early intervention. There's potential, for example, potential learning or behavioral challenges are identified early, allowing our teachers to provide timely and quick support for those students. Number 2, tailored support. So that each child receives interventions that are specifically designed to meet those the needs of those students. Our decisions that we make are really data-driven. So interventions are based on evidence and data, ensuring that they're effective. I talked about this earlier. We're making sure that we're not reacting to certain things. We're being proactive. MTSS aims to prevent problems from becoming larger issues. And then, of course, we're working collaboratively together. Teachers, our specialists, and our families are working together to make sure that we're supporting every student's success. And how do we monitor the MTSS process? Well, our staff are working together to monitor by administering assessments and reviewing the data that's collected. Of course, we are administering universal screeners, and I think all of you have seen the letters that have been going out. I write those letters, and they go out multiple times a year, fall, winter, spring, and they just say, dear parents or dear families, it's fall, and we're going to be administering the DIBELS and our iReady in math. So, those are some of the examples. We also, of course, administer a SEL screener, and I'll talk more about that in just a minute. We monitor the student's progress. If a student is admitted into a Tier 2 or Tier 3 intervention, our teachers are providing or administering little progress monitoring checks to make sure that to see how the child is doing. If they're doing well, then they don't need to be in the MTSS process anymore. Or if they're not succeeding, okay, what different strategies do they need to do to, help that child to make more progress? And then our teachers are working very regularly in data teams to, monitor, again, make sure that the students are making progress, they're communicating, the interventionists with the teacher teams. So there's a lot of work that goes on into this.
Do they meet monthly or weekly?
They're meeting regularly in data teams. Sometimes they're meeting weekly. Sometimes our teachers are just having informal conversations with one another to check on the progress of students. Of course, our principals are meeting with the grade level teams and the interventionists. So, there's just so much that our teams are doing to make sure that our students are being successful. Jen?
And if you want to talk about it later in your presentation, how are the teachers and all of the support staff trained? So if you could go into that later.
Yeah, let me come back to that,
Yeah,
sure.
Perfect. And then on your triangle chart here, if it's supported by tutors, paras, and everything, so that we can get it for the budget.
Sure, I can talk about that too. So let me talk a little bit about the success for all of our learners. So the MTSS process is designed, number 1, to close opportunity gaps. And, there's nothing that I think that's more important than making sure that regardless of a student's race, economic status, language, that it really doesn't matter. We want all of our students to be successful. That's something that I'm very committed to personally. That it shouldn't matter that where you live, what your zip code is, what your background is. We want all of our students to be successful. And then, of course, we want to support acceleration as well. I think I referenced this earlier. MTSS is not just about remediation, that if we have a student that's ready to fly, that they're in 3rd grade, but they can do 4th grade level math, that the MTSS process is for these students too. How can we support them in continuing to make progress so that, they're getting the work that they need, the challenge level that they need?
And when you say you want all the students to be successful, how do you define success?
Well, it really depends. So if we have a 3rd grade students that's ready for 4th grade math, that's success for that child.
Okay.
I want to give you some examples here of our MTSS process. Now, these are just small examples, so I don't want you to feel like this is the comprehensive model that we have in place, but I just wanted to give you an example. So in this case, here's an example of what we're doing in attendance for the different tiers. And I have a link on the bottom there to our comprehensive attendance MTSS model. But you can see that if, for example, if a student is struggling with attendance, say, for example, that child is on the verge of being chronically absent, well, there's multiple things that we can do here. So in Tier 1, we do the same thing for all of our students. We design school-wide initiatives or incentives. We send regular communications to all of our families. And, that went really well this year. And I think I've spoken to this, that we made major improvements with our attendance efforts this year. And I really do believe it's not just because of what we did in Tier 1, but also because of what we implemented in terms of our Tier 2 and our Tier 3 supports. And I want to thank the support of this board, because all of you last year when we talked about this, you encouraged us to look at our policy, our regulations, and we went ahead and we did that work last summer, and we modified all of the policy, the regulations, and this addendum, and I do feel like it made a significant impact. Then in terms of our Tier 2, just one example of something that we could do is we could develop a specific student success plan with the family and the student. And as a part of that plan, we can include very specific interventions, like a daily check-in with a trusted adult. We know that our students really value having that trusted adult in the building, and when we kind of incorporate that check-in with the trusted adult, that is something that motivates the student to come to school more regularly. So that's something that's part of our Tier 2 intervention. And then finally, for a Tier 3 attendance intervention, our administrators and sometimes our teachers or our social workers or school counselors, they often are involved in conducting home visits. Sometimes it's one home visit that makes a difference. Sometimes it's multiple home visits. Or sometimes our families get involved with the school-based health centers and involved in, like, for example, a social worker from the school-based health center gets involved with a family or some other community resource. So this is just one example of from the attendance module or MTSS process. I want to share some other examples with you. In terms of behavior, we have, again, I've given you just a sample here. In Tier 1, we very explicitly teach our expectations to all students. As a Tier 2 example, we may hold an informal meeting with a student or create a behavior contract with that student, and maybe the family's involved in that as well. Of course, we always want to make sure our family members are very well aware of what we're doing with the students. As a part of the Tier 3 plan, we're going to develop a formal behavior support intervention plan with the child and the student and the parent being involved in that as well. Or we may even engage the student in an informal counseling group. So again, here's just a sample of some of the things that we're doing as we ramp up the supports for a child that might be struggling with his or her behavior.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
On the key performances indicators for behavior, you have in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions. Should we be monitoring the amount of students that have to go to the principal's office for their behavior?
We could. The thing about it is students are sent to the principal's office sometimes for a variety of reasons. And so sometimes it's because, you have a child, like for example, I'm often with, I'm going to just give an example, I might be with Mr. Wheeler or Mr. Cheney, and there are students that just sometimes need that connection with a male adult, and they just go down there because, they have that, they just need that adult connection. So I would hate to have them, like, if just because that student is sent to Mr. Wheeler because they have that daily connection with him, to be kind of counted in that way. So we always look at the in and out of school suspensions because that's really what the state kind of monitors, rather than those you're going to be sent to the principal and maybe I'm just having that check-in, or maybe I just need to be spoken to. It wasn't like really a major infraction, and so we don't kind of. I'm sure they monitor those things in Power School, but it's not really kind of considered a major infraction.
Okay. Mitch?
Oh, go ahead, Mitch.
I was following very closely
Yeah.
when you went through the attendance, and it seemed to me that based on my recollection, there's not much of a difference between what we're talking about here and what's currently done. Is that correct?
Can you rephrase that? I'm not really sure what you're asking.
Okay, the actions that you take for
Yep.
somebody who's on the verge of being an attendance issue.
Yep.
Okay, you listed on here things that you do, and I thought
Yeah.
those were things that we do already.
I'm not following.
He's saying that you have this here, right?
Yes.
But we're already doing this. We're already doing these things, so it's nothing different what you have on paper here than what we're doing in reality.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what.
that's kind of sample of how.
Yes, these are samples of what we're already doing.
Okay,
Okay.
I did that purposely.
okay, all right. I'm good with that.
Oh, okay. Yes, no, there's nothing new in this PowerPoint that we're not already doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so there's two other examples that I want to show you, and these are part of K-5, literacy and math. Again, I want to just emphasize, in Tier 1, everyone gets the same thing, so in K through 5, we're looking at wit and wisdom. K through 2, they're also, of course, getting that U-Fly, additional instruction in phonics, and that's between 120 and 150 minutes, 5 days a week for all students. In Tier 2, depending upon the school and the model, we have additional push-in or pull-out support. That's a minimum of 2 to 3 days a week for an extra 30 minutes, and those are in small groups of 3 to 6 students, again, for that additional small percentage of students that need those targeted interventions. And then in Tier 3, which is really that 1 to 5...
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know what pushing means.
Oh, sometimes we have an interventionist that comes into the classroom and works with a small group of students.
Okay.
Right, so that they're not taken out during the literacy instruction.
Okay.
And then, and that's usually arranged between the teacher and the interventionist. Hey, can you come into my classroom and work with that small group today?
Okay.
Sometimes they decide that the interventionist is going to pull the students out during that time so that maybe there's not a distraction. They can work, uninterrupted with that same small group of students during that time period. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I didn't know that pushing.
Yes.
Was
Yeah.
push.
Yes. Yeah, no, but thank you
If you
for...
would have said in class, then
No, I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget. I'm using these educational terms that I assume everyone gets.
And again, what does win mean?
When is what I need, and it's like essentially the intervention block.
Okay.
And that's really, again, designed around the what is it that, those students that may need extra support, what is it they need? So if, the students in that particular targeted intervention group has decided that they may need extra phonics instruction, or they may need work related to, maybe they're looking at literary elements, or they're working on a specific writing skill. So the interventionist or the literacy coach is coming in and working with just a small group of students in that particular area or skill. And in Tier 3, that small group of students, again, it's usually 1 to 3 students, very, very specific skill, and it's a much smaller group. They're getting more intensive instruction. It's usually about the same amount of minutes, but they're getting it more time.
It says 15 to 30 minutes.
15 to 30 minutes, again, it depends on it could be as high as 30 minutes, but sometimes it could be 15 on what they're working on, but they're getting it 3 to 5 days a week instead of 2 to 3 times a week.
And 15 minutes is enough?
Well, it depends on what they're working on during that time.
Okay.
I had to give the range because, what happens is it could be like, as Mr. River on this day, they're getting 15 minutes, but the next time they're working with them, they're getting 30. And at Thames on Thursdays, they're getting this amount of time. So I had to give you a range because I didn't want to say, well, it's this amount of time on Mondays, but at this amount of time on, every school is a little bit different. So, the giving you a range doesn't lock me in. I didn't want you to have to call me out on something. At NEA on Wednesdays, it's this amount of time. I'd have to say, yeah, you're right.
I was just wondering, how much could be accomplished in 15 minutes? By the time the student comes, gets settled in,
Well, again,
15 minutes.
do and push in is a little bit easier.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, and here we are in math. Very, very similar model with next year, and I just put in what we're going to be doing next year. Obviously, in illustrative math, we're going to do a minimum of 60 minutes a day. I'm trying to work with principals to maybe if we can do a little bit more math, that would be great, but a minimum of 60 minutes a day. We'll have both a push-in or a pull-out model depending upon the work that we're doing, using our iReady tools for instruction lessons, as well as some intervention related to the illustrative math. Again, Tier 2 will be getting 2 to 3 days a week for 30 minutes during their WIN or intervention block in small groups of 3 to 6 students. And in Tier 3, of course, those groups are going to be a lot smaller, ranging from 15 to 30 minutes, 3 to 5 days a week. So very, very similar. And I know, Jen, you had asked me a question on how are these people trained. So we have, of course, our teachers are working. There's multiple people that are providing, of course, our supports. Number one, we have the classroom teachers. They plan together at least 1 day a week, but some of our teaching teams are meeting together as many times as 3 days a week. And they look at our student data, and they say, okay, this is what we determined that our students need. So they sometimes will work together to plan interventions. Then, of course, we have our math specialists or our literacy specialists, and they have specialized training, of course. Our literacy specialists might have a special certification, and they're working with also specialized materials, whether it be the U-Fly materials. So they're implementing interventions based on, not only their specialized training, but also the materials that they have. So there's a range of things that they're kind of pulling together to provide these interventions to our students. And then, of course, sometimes we have our MLL or English language learner instructors who are providing specialized interventions to our students with, English learning needs. They're kind of part of this process as well. They're working with our Tier 1 instructors to provide supports during that time. So there's a real team collaborative approach, and that's what I love best about the MTSS model, is that we have our teachers working together. This year, starting back in February, I started working with the principals on implementing what I call professional, I'm not the one who named this, but professional learning communities, and that really focuses on having our teachers work together, looking at student data, identifying what the needs are of our individual students, and then saying, okay, these are all of our kids. How can we identify their individual needs, work to identify what is it or what strategies we need to implement, and then monitor their progress. So it aligns very nicely with this MTSS process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, thank you. Do you have, the reason I was asking, Ray, I just want to, as you're going through this upcoming year, to ensure, we have enough MLL tutors, specialized math, and ELA. So I know we have some in the budget. Just let us know, like if we need more.
Okay.
Or if it's the same, so that this can be fully funded and fully supported. And that was like my whole intent, to make sure that the program is successful because we have the resources in place.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Huh? Mitch?
You just need to think of this. Do you need additional resources, or do you not know yet?
That's a tricky question, because I think if you were to ask any of the principals, they would tell you always that they need additional resources. So I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay, that's why I was asking you.
There are always students with needs, and I think that any time that you could work with students that have needs in a smaller group, it's always going to be helpful to them. But, is that always the answer to everything? I'm not sure. I'm not discrediting that belief. Do I believe that's true? Yes. But is the answer, more money for everything? I don't know. It's not sustainable for us or realistic. So,
Can I add this?
Yeah.
I do believe, though, that this board, in taking the step to have universal pre-K and getting those 4-year-olds who are going to be kindergartners
Yes.
earlier, the earlier we intervene, the earlier we know children have a disability or need help or a reading problem, and we're doing the right thing by our kids in the core instruction and intervention, the more likely we're going to see success. So I think by committing like you have to really investing in early childhood, investing in a new reading program in mathematics and all of this, and even, the principals were delighted to get the extra tutoring support for this year. So it might be a half-time position, but to them that was really meaningful, and they're really looking at what their needs are in their building to decide. So I just have to say that I think we're planning in the best way we can to take care of kids as early as we can.
and the support of this board has not gone unnoticed in terms of the focus on the elementary levels and the focus on making sure that the students have the basic skills in literacy and mathematics before they go to the secondary level, for sure.
Adrian?
Yeah, I'll go, so a couple of things. One, the title of this, I know on the referral tracking sheet, I had made a referral a long time ago to talk about Tier 2 and Tier 3 ELA interventions in like elementary ed, and I don't really think that this presentation was necessarily that, although we touched on that. We didn't, it was, I kind of asked for how do we make that clock, and we were kind of given the time, so I think that...
What do you mean, how to make that clock?
As an example of, I asked for kind of an in-depth what's going into the ELA supports in elementary, and I don't think we didn't actually get into any of the actual supports. We just talked about kind of,
I
time and
can
stuff
speak to
like
when
that.
I was sent an email asking specifically for MTSS.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm just kind of saying that as when we talk about the referral tracking sheet later on.
Yeah, it was supposed to be about...
Yeah, I know, and that's...
It must have got miscommunicated, but it came from Susan and I looked at that. It was supposed to be, I don't know, maybe you didn't convey that to Anne Marie, that it was supposed to be ELA K-12, like from the tracking sheet.
I actually wasn't thinking it was supposed to be that. I thought we were going to start with kind of a broader brushstroke of elementary math and ELA.
Well, that's why in the beginning I mentioned that.
I know. Well, that's why I'm mentioning it now.
Look, I'm like, this wasn't what it was on the referral sheet, but...
Exactly. So I just wanted to make a note of that. I think that this is very important because this is something that I kind of understand, not necessarily with all the details, so I appreciate that. But I imagine that some board members don't understand it, especially if they didn't have children in these tiers. So
what in addition, Adrian, are you looking for?
I'm happy to address whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be able to answer those questions. I think they're probably questions that we need people that specialize in ELA
Well, I can get whoever you want here.
What
Oh, yeah.
exactly are you looking for?
So what exactly are we doing, and how many kids are in it, and when are we identifying kids, or students? So I think that what I would prefer to see in that, I think we should just have a private meeting to talk about that, rather than have an organized meeting, at least on my intent.
So specifically with reading, you mean?
Yeah, well, like the referral says, the ELA, Tier 2 and Tier 3. So, but one thing I'll get back to, like on the general kind of where you were going, is, if we go back to that triangle slide, which was about halfway in, it says Tier 2 intervention, approximately 10 to 15%, of students who need more support than Tier 1. And I agree with that as a principle, but, and I think that we're clearly trying to strengthen Tier 1 interventions, but at this point, I think that those numbers might be undershooting the real needs of Groton, like to say that 15% of kids. So if I just were to go back to the reading scores, and I don't remember these numbers exactly, but I would say that, in early elementary, like what is it, in third grade they do the test? Is that the first one for ELA? Yeah. So I would say that it was something like 25% or something like that was far below benchmark. Or maybe it's 20%, but it was much more than 10 to 15, and these are students that are not even just below benchmark, they're well below benchmark. So
I'm not speaking, in this case, I wasn't speaking to our numbers specifically. I'm just kind of was providing you with a general overview of MTSS and the process, and these are the textbook kind of, this is defined.
All right, but you had said that this is kind of what we're doing, and I wanted to go back to this slide directly, and I'm hoping that we're doing a little bit more with Tier 2, and why I think directed tutoring, and we really should be spending money on tutoring, and hopefully in a couple of years with improved Tier 1 instruction with new curriculums, we won't need as much Tier 2 and Tier 3. I think that's the intent altogether.
The general thinking is that you have to strengthen Tier 1. When you strengthen Tier 1, all of your other layers are going to improve, right? So that's really my main focus, is we've got to make sure that our strongest level of instruction is in Tier 1. Right. And that's been my main focus. Now, of course, we've got to make sure that we've got the Tier 2 in place and the Tier 3 in place. But Tier 1 has got to be the main priority.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't disagree with that. Yeah. And I think that from a school district standpoint, that's very important. But we have a bunch of students in second grade that get one chance to be in second grade. So for those students, we can't just say, well, we really want you to fit into the box of only 15% of you. We need to look at the real need that we have on the ground and figure out what we need to do. And I totally agree that, we can't fix everything, and you have to have budgetary constraints. But I think also, my own personal passion is that if we support those students enough, that they're just going to be more successful throughout their schooling career.
Yeah, and you've got to understand.
And the data shows that too.
You've got to understand here too that this might be 15% at Mystic River. It might be a little bit fewer at NEA. These numbers are going to fluctuate and look a little bit different depending upon where we are. So, again...
Yeah. I just wanted to kind of point out that I think this is it's a great goal, but I think it's a little bit simplistic from where we are right now, or our needs right now.
Understood.
And then I'm going to make a referral for attendance policy, but I think that the board needs to look at attendance from, and because I think that to support teachers as well, I think we need more. So I'll bring that up later. We don't have to get into deep on that.
So I would suggest, because we didn't really talk about ELA and K through, what was it? What was your referral?
Yeah, I think it was K to 5 ELA.
Right. That you sent Anne-Marie what you want, and I'll put it back on the agenda.
Yeah, and I think yeah, I mean, we can just have a discussion.
So she
Yeah, well, exactly. That's why when I saw the agenda, I thought we were going to talk about it, and then when I saw this, it was an overview. But I think you need to have the overview first to have
Are you looking for specificity as far as teacher training and what kinds of
teacher training programs that we're using.
Special ed and regular ed, the literacy specialists are all getting Wilson trained and have Orton Gillingham backgrounds. And those programs, depending on a child's IEP or their level of intervention, are being used.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I know that. I mean, I can give you an example of are we identifying kids, because we know that if you can identify a student at 4, which I don't think we're doing, as dyslexic, for instance, if you tailor instruction at grade 4, you will effectively work around dyslexia, and it won't affect the student for the rest of their career, so they'll be much more successful throughout. So we're probably not.
Where we do it.
Yeah, so we're probably not identifying students with dyslexia at age 4. And I'm using dyslexia just because I have a little bit of knowledge on it, but my guess is that we're probably identifying kids at age 8. But should we be, what's our plan in the future? Are we trying to, improve some of that identification early on? Are we just trying to change some core instruction for students that we think are at risk? So I guess when I say that, I had some ideas on what that would be. I just think it's more than we really need to go into tonight, quite honestly.
Just to let Anne Marie know, so when I put it back on the agenda, she has a blueprint of what.
Yeah, so let's just leave it as Anne Marie, give me a call, and we'll make sure that. and I would rather have that discussion anyway, because I have a whole bunch of questions, and then you could just be prepared for all the answers. And we'll have we don't have to go over the answers, but I can at least go over all my questions.
Yeah, no problem.
So, there's attendance and you can other. All right, that was it for questions. Thank you.
Ian and then James.
Thank you. I just appreciate all the work going into this, and I just want to say that I do appreciate also Dr. Macy mentioning that this sort of system is designed to catch the high flyers as much as those who are facing challenges. So the people that are kind of moving faster than anticipated can also be have their needs met, let them continue to develop. This isn't to answer questions and about the specificity and further ways to look at this. I think it might be beneficial to maybe just have some anonymized examples. Like, have the specialists that actually apply the tier 2 and 3 interventions, say for exclusive instruction in phonics. And what does that look like? If this, then that. If they discover this in the student, how do they address it? What tools do they actually use so that people can get more familiar? Because a lot of times when it's discussed, it's very broad, very generalized like this. But I think it would be beneficial for the public to get some examples of actually what these techniques and tools look like. Where they're basically visiting phonics and practicing pronunciation and learning how to decode and put letters together, that sort of thing. And I think that could help too. Thank you. Otherwise, I think it's great. I'm glad we had this in place, and I look forward to the follow-up meeting. That everything that you identify, I think, is a great approach as far as we come to this. It's just to kind of dive into it. Thank you.
Jen?
I'm probably out in left field, as I'm always out in left field. I want to say thank you for this, because, I know you've mentioned this in various presentations, right? But, putting it all together, much appreciated. What Ian mentioned, I like how it focuses on students who are not just failing, but also have the potential to go forward. But where I'm going to deviate and be out in left field is if we get additional information what are we going to do with it as a board? And second, are we crossing our swim lines? Because if administration is saying that they're doing this and they have a process in place, let them do it. Why do we need to monitor how they do it? Why do we need to do this? If administration and Anne Marie is working on this, why do we need to dig into the details? We are the board of directors. We need to set the vision. We need to ensure that they're working on it. Only if we, as a board, don't feel that they're doing any of this should we start looking in for data. But that's just me.
Dean, you have something else to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of clarify. I'm not looking at getting at it after it from like a critical standpoint. I just think it would be better. I think it would be beneficial for public knowledge because people do have questions about how these things work. I think it'd be. I was coming at it more of like a show and tell type presentation of like, well, this is what we mean when we use these broad terms. This is what the toolkits look like. It's not so much for approval or denial or critique or could you do this and you should teach this like that. No, I feel more just like in general, like, hey, this is our toolkit. It's like someone going to the show and tell night and you got this stuff laid out on the table and like, well, if we had a student that showed these sorts of tendencies, this is how we address it with this going through three-step process. And then we get to this level of mastery and we move on. It was more like a public information approach. I wasn't looking to manage anybody.
Well, I wouldn't mind having that information, but I don't want the staff to go through a lot of work, because why do we need that information? You all need it as the staff. We don't need it as a board, really. It's nice to have, but if it's going to be time-consuming to your staff, I suggest we don't do it.
I think, though, in a conversation with Adrian or even in a board note, we could lay out all the different professional learnings, because there is a lot that has been going on, I would say, in the past 6 years, especially after we took the master class for literacy and we did the deep dive in learning more as a whole staff. So I'm really proud of the work that's been happening, and I think we are going to identify earlier.
And just to follow up on that, I don't think it would be, I'm not looking for, I'm not suggesting that extra work. I'm thinking it's more like, it's like talking to a mechanic in the garage and like, hey, it's like if you got this kind of sound coming out of an engine, what would you do? How would you address it? Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, I understand what you want. I understand what you want, but I don't know, why the board needs to know that. If it's going to be...
People have questions, so I think there's a self-clarify. Just want people to understand what's happening under the hood.
Okay.
Educational goals. Okay.
So what I can understand, and maybe I'm wrong, Ian, is that you're thinking like a Gantt chart. If I see this, this is the direction I would go. If I see this, this is the direction we would take, right? But I don't know. I don't necessarily, if you already have it, yes, but if not, don't bother. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't really...
All right.
I was just going to ask to move on because I think we've kind of sidetracked off of the agenda.
But I'm just saying, we don't...
Well, I don't know if we sidetracked on the agenda. He wanted some information, so I don't know. You're a sidetrack sometimes. You do too, so. The next item is discuss the world language, and I'll just ask Adrian because that's his referral. I asked Dr. Mancini to stay.
It was originally my referral. I'm going to clarify again that this is the curriculum committee on November 3rd made this referral. So I will, I'll go back. So when we get to the tracking sheet, I request that be updated just so people can refer back to a meeting rather than, think that it just was an email or something. But But, well, I guess to go back to what we talked about at the curriculum committee meeting, you know, like the foreign language offerings have changed a little bit. You know, I would say we got rid of Latin maybe 5 years ago. And a survey was done, which a survey was done at that point, which showed that there wasn't a huge demand for Latin, but there was it was kind of surprising where it showed where the demand was. You know, there was a strong demand for Spanish, and then it was ASL, and then French, and then Mandarin. So there was a lot of things that kind of came out of that survey, and it didn't seem, you know, it didn't seem like anything changed as a result of that survey. So in that meeting, we kind of talked about what we're doing. We didn't really talk about a path forward. There was a lot of discussion that survey was getting old, which it clearly is now. It would be like 4 or 5 years old at this point. So there was discussion in that meeting to maybe go back to the board and see if we want to have more discussion about foreign language, where we're going, what we're doing. Do we want to do another survey to see where we're going to go with foreign language? So that was my recollection from the agenda. And I think actually Mike was the one that in that meeting made the referral. So I don't know if anybody else has any input on that, but I'm curious to see, you know, what we're doing.
Address that, Anne Marie?
Yeah, I can address it. I actually have the presentation. We did talk about what was happening in world language. There was a survey that was done. I have the results of the survey. It wasn't that, so yes, there was some changes, I believe, in the last number of years about the offerings in world language. Latin was eliminated. Again, this goes back a number of years, and the results of the survey showed. And I do have them. I'm looking. If you give me 1 second, I can bring up this PowerPoint.
So right now, the 3 languages that we have are French, Spanish, and ASL.
Yes, and that actually, if you, I'm going to show you this right now. This is a presentation that the high school team gave.
And this was to the curriculum committee.
This was to the curriculum committee. But you will see that the survey was administered, I believe, to students and to families.
Mm-hmm.
This is the current flow chart in terms of what's available.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that currently we are offering Spanish, French, and American Sign Language. This talks a little bit about the sections. I want to get to the survey. This talks about the different...
And we also have Spanish for the Spanish speaker and Spanish in the workplace, which was essential, having so many ESL students that didn't need a Spanish one, you know, or that the children who might be thinking about doing work that would require them to have Spanish in the workplace.
So the survey was administered, it looks like, to parents of students in pre-K through grade 4. You'll see the top 3 choices were Spanish, ASL, and French. And as you know, Spanish, ASL, and French are, of course, the offerings that we have. Parents of children in grades 5 through 11, the top 3 choices were Spanish, ASL, and French. Again, that is what we offer.
So do you think we need to offer anything else? I mean, where are you going with this, Adrian? Are you suggesting that we look at offering different languages, or what?
Chair, it also, so then getting to the students were surveyed. The top 3 language choices were Spanish, French, and ASL. Again, those are what we offer. And then the next line was, again, what would you be possibly interested in studying in the future? Japanese comes in here, but French is the 4th language, pretty close. So I think, you know, why this didn't go anywhere from that November meeting was because when you look at the parent survey results and the student survey results, what we are offering is what the survey results, I think that's kind of why we're offering what the survey results demanded.
Adrian?
I totally agree that that's what we're offering. I think the alignment is significantly skewed from that, though, as far, so how many, so here we see, so on the right is what you're currently taking, or on the left, I'm sorry. So on the right side, it says, for ASL, over half of the students would like to take ASL. And how many are actually in ASL is 3.7% that said they were taking ASL at that point. And Japanese is 13 points higher, 13% higher than French. So I'm not saying that we should get rid of French, but how many French teachers do we have in the district, and how many ASL teachers do we have in the district?
I'm going to just remind, Chair, I'm going to remind you that, and I'm a fan of ASL, so I'm not speaking against ASL, but I do believe that Mr. Johnson brought up during the budget process, he requested an additional FTE, maybe half FTE, full FTE for ASL. I don't get a vote in this. I'm sure I would support it if that was the case, but I believe through the budget process it was not granted. So that's not something that the high school controls or Susan and I control. That is something that this board did not decide to fund. That's not something that, because it didn't come out of curriculum committee or this, I want to make that point.
Okay.
It's not a decision that...
Well taken.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say that, this was 4 years ago. So to go back...
I don't think it would change much, though.
Well, I doubt it. I mean, quite honestly, I think these results are close enough to make decisions on where we want to go as a district, which is why I'd asked for this. So I mean, although I'd asked, the reason I think that we should have the discussion in a COW or a special meeting in this case is because to bring it up in budget is not the time that you want to introduce a program. Just through a budget discussion. You want to have some board thought on the program. And it's not that we're introducing a new program. We are, as it shows in that, do we have an ASL teacher at this point?
Yes.
So we have one FTE for ASL, and, do we want to reallocate? Because I think that students in general are going to be more successful if they get to take courses that they desire to take. And since the state sees ASL as a world language credit, I don't understand why we don't support what the students and realign with what the students desire. I know that IB does not recognize ASL, which I have a feeling is why there's so much hesitation for more support for ASL. But I'll also say that when you're in 9th grade, you really don't get to sign up for ASL 1. So when you're in 8th grade filling out like your class assignments for the following year, you don't get to choose ASL unless there's a special circumstance. So you get to choose between, if you want to take 9th grade foreign language, you choose between French and Spanish. And rightfully so, it's because we do not have enough spots for ASL. Many more students want to take ASL than spots available.
So you're suggesting that we offer more classes, more spots in ASL, and decrease what we have in French? I don't know what we have in French. But if that's something, then we can make a referral to the curriculum committee to look at that.
I think we need to look at the data to see, Adrian and I had talked about this, to see how many kids are signing up for these different courses and how many are receiving a seat in them. I think we have to use data to drive our instruction and our decision-making on this. There was a time when 8th grade had an opportunity to take ASL, and I think we had one of those classes in 8th grade. But then because it became so popular in the high school, it really, the teacher was full-time at the high school, so.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, there was, in that meeting, there was discussion on whether we needed an updated survey. I personally didn't think we needed it, but that was where the discussion went, that maybe the board wanted to do an updated survey.
I don't think the survey is going to change.
I don't really either, quite honestly. But I think that
Japanese,
I would be curious to know if a substantial amount of our student population were not taking Spanish and French, would that affect anything with IB, especially the IB and NYP? Is there a reason that we don't offer any ASL in the middle school?
We just don't have the teacher.
We don't have the teacher in middle school.
Staff. I mean, some of it is even like Japanese and Chinese, and I can only speak to my experiences in other districts. I worked in 2 other districts that offered Chinese and Japanese, for example. It is very, very difficult, just like in ASL. It's very, very difficult to secure teachers in certain languages. Sometimes you actually have to get a grant with the, I forgot, I actually even wrote this grant, where you actually go to China and get the teacher from China. They study with you for a year. You have to put them up in somebody's house, and like that's how because there just aren't enough people living here in the U.S. that have this certification. Same thing with ASL, not that you're going to another foreign country, but just people, they don't exist. It's very, very hard to get these teachers. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but I'm, quite frankly, really pleased that we were able to get a replacement for our ASL teacher, to roll the dice again and to expect that we would get a second. I mean, I just think that would be like lightning in a bottle.
Well, I think
What we can do is, I think in September is going to be budget priorities. At that time, you could bring that up. Does the board want to support a ASL teacher in the middle school, on the middle school level? And if that's something the board wants to do, then we can have Susan and Anne Marie explore trying to hire a ASL teacher for the middle school. But that could be something we can bring up, like I said, in September when we talk.
Yeah, well, the reason like I just said, the reason I think that it's better to have this discussion in a COW or a special meeting in this, because when it's talked about in budget, it's hard to explain to the board what the students want, what the students seem to be more successful at, and to have like an in-depth discussion. Because we can talk about all sorts of budget priorities, but if we don't have the background knowledge, it's hard to say where we want to. I mean, there's some other things going on now too. I mean, I believe that we have 2 elementary foreign language teachers, and are we gonna in the funding for those 2 positions ends in June. Are we going to be adding that? Are we going to continue to? So are we going to be adding 2 positions next year anyway, and not kind of get into the survey?
Is the DODEA grant for world languages ending in 2027?
You can check with the superintendent, but that is my understanding.
Yes.
Okay. And I guess this question is: Are you planning to add the teachers that
Not
are
at
doing
this
that job in
time.
the budget, or do
Not
away
at
with
this
it?
time. We really have to analyze the data, and then we'll bring it to the board and have you look at it with us.
And even if world language should be in our elementary school, based on the teachers, concern about the schedule, the time.
Yeah.
So we might not even want to do world
Yeah.
language in the elementary school.
Yeah,
We're saying they don't have enough time.
I totally agree with that, which is why I bring that up.
Yeah. So that's a discussion
Yeah,
too.
that's definitely something we got to consider.
So maybe you can, at some point, come back to the board and
Yep, we can
say,
do that.
okay, we're not going to have world language in elementary school, or we think it's good to continue, but I don't think the teachers would be too happy in elementary school. Mike, and then Mitch, and then Sean. Mike, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I do, thank you. I was wondering, at the high school right now, do we know how many FTEs are in French and Spanish for that matter? Because you mentioned there's one in ASL.
We only have one French teacher at the high school and one at the middle school and one in the elementary. So really,
Spanish teachers.
yeah, no, just one French.
And then Spanish?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Spanish is one at the elementary. I think there are 3 at the middle school. I'd have to get you that data, Mike, but there's definitely more, times 3, times 4, at the middle school and high school of Spanish. I'm really concerned that, like Latin, we're seeing it kind of decrease across the state and maybe even nation. I don't know. I don't have the national perspective on it. But
For French?
for French, yeah.
Yeah, that was actually the comparison to Latin was where I was kind of driving at. I mean, to some extent, to a real extent, how many people we have in French and how many classes are offered controlled by having one FTE. Same thing with the ASL. And that's, yeah, so I guess, can you speak to that? Is there do you foresee in the future phasing out our French offerings? Is that something that's happening in other school districts already in the state? That was my question.
Well, we were hopeful that with this grant, we would be able to do the carousel model at the elementary level so that we could start kids on the actual levels of language so that they could be more ready to get a seal of biliteracy. And we have seen the numbers of seals of biliteracy increase. So it has produced some success, especially we saw it in the middle school.
Now, his question is, are you thinking about eliminating French?
I've never,
And what other school
that was
districts are
not the
doing?
plan. The plan was really to revitalize French because of having the carousel at the elementary and hoping to see it grow. We have not seen that though, Mike, so it is going to be a decision we have to make.
So right now, though, in middle school, are all students being introduced to French and Spanish like they used to be, or no?
No, it happens at the elementary level, then they decide in 6th grade.
Do they
And so,
teach it in middle school, though?
and they teach both French and Spanish at the middle school, but it's, let's say a 1-to-4 ratio, a 1-to-3 ratio of 1 French teacher to 3 Spanish teacher. I have to think that's right.
If I have the budget book, I gotta look in the budget book to see. You have that?
It might be 4 at the...
Dr. Mancini has
So
the numbers.
there are 4 Spanish teachers at the middle school and 6 at the high school.
Did you hear that, Mike?
Yes, thank you. So I guess I'm wondering, are we an outlier currently by teaching French at the high school level, like among districts in the state? I feel like we probably aren't, but I was wondering kind of like where we fit in there.
Well, I think others have both French and Spanish. Some have Chinese, Japanese, and other things too. But I would say that it's definitely, we've seen a decline, not only in Groton, but across the state.
And
in the
nationwide-
number.
and nationwide as well.
nationwide. Yeah, in the number that want to take French.
But not in the number that want to take ASL. So just thinking here, I mean, if there's some of the trends that there is an increasing interest in ASL, has been for some time, and I'm actually very for teaching French language. Personally, and I kind of continue to advocate for it, but I can see where pathway is going. When it comes time to consider whether to hire someone, like upon retirement to hire someone in what language, do you choose to fill the same language, or do you use resources elsewhere? That would go for Spanish as well, by the way. Like, are retirements at the high school level an opportunity to potentially rebalance the world language offerings? Just an open question.
You want an answer to that now?
No.
Okay. All right. They'll get back to you on that. Mitch?
Well, they'll have to get back to me. I think that's like a longer range planning.
Okay.
When retirements come up in world language, to kind of come back to this exact question. Can we get another ASL, for instance? Or do we really need someone in this language or that?
And I'm hoping to talk about that when budget priorities come, if the board wants to support getting another ASL teacher. Mitch?
We're getting into a lot of detail here about something. I would recommend, I don't know if I can make the recommendation, I'm asking the chairperson that this be sent to the curriculum committee.
I said that.
Yeah, you did say that.
Yeah.
And because, I mean, in my mind, this generates a whole another list of questions. And I don't think this is the time or the place to get into that level of detail.
I agree. I mean, I was pushed to like basically keep quiet, and then we were having like a whole discussion on this, like on another topic. Yes, definitely curriculum committee.
Just for the record, the curriculum committee talked about it and sent it to the whole board. So we have like a, so it did go to the curriculum committee.
But did they make a recommendation? We, as a district, would recommend that we phase out French in 2 years and put an investment
I
in
think that, I
ESL.
mean, my personal feeling is that that's a board decision because that's a more holistic direction. Not just.
But you can recommend, right? Like you could say like curriculum committee, and I would take your like assessment if the curriculum committee and administration say, hey, we reevaluated offerings, and this is as the curriculum committee, this is what we're proposing to the board, COW, or wherever we're going to vote. So we would say like, oh, okay, do nothing, make this change, or usually good 3 options, right? Do nothing, make this change, and whatever the other option is, right? And then if you say we recommend option B, more than likely the rest of us will say, okay, option B. And then we put a plan in place like, hey, we're going to transition out of French in 2 to 3 years, or we're going to transition out of elementary school in 2 to 3 years, right? So that's what the committee meetings are for, is to vet that out, make the decision, make the recommendation, so that we as a board can just vote on it and know that we're trusting you in that committee, working with administration.
Okay, I'm going to refer it to curriculum.
No, so that's what I was like, I know you guys discussed it.
Yeah, I mean,
Curriculum.
I will say, I think, not that I want to take your job, but I think you were next, right?
Yeah, my only question is, can you send that PowerPoint around? There was some things that we were kind of flipping through I wanted to look at.
Copy of it, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so it's going to go to the curriculum. We're all done with that topic. I'm all set with that topic, Mike. I'm sending it to curriculum.
Yeah.
Okay?
I was just saying, I actually have to leave right now. I might be able to join back kind of half an hour.
Bless you.
Okay. Mike left at
7:47.
thank you, 7:47 p.m. Okay, Joan, Mike left at 7:47. Thank you, Mike. All right, so curriculum, put it on your calendar and come back to us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie, for your presentation.
Thank you, Anne
And
Marie.
thank you for sticking around to talk about world language. I know you weren't ready to talk about that.
No problem at all.
Thank you for doing that. Okay, next on the agenda is.
And head out when you're ready.
Good. I'm gonna skip right down to you and skip through to who's talking about food service.
Me.
Okay, I'm gonna go right to you, Clint.
You're not going to say no?
Yep, go ahead. Go for it.
So this is long-term plan for technology. It's attachment 5.
Pull it up and share it right now. How you doing, everybody? I prepared this memo because I wanted you all to be able to wrap your brains around this and kind of be able to prep any questions. Really, the design of this was to show you some of the big picture items that we are trying to kind of slipstream into our two sources of funding that we typically have for IT in Groton Public Schools, which is obviously the operating budget, as well as DODIA funds, impact aid funds that we have traditionally used to support the technology program here for Groton Public Schools. I tried to break this down so you had kind of outlays of what we've been discussing, certainly fiscal year 27, and then some of the bigger chunks of things to discuss for fiscal year 28, fiscal year 29. I will not reiterate too much about the E-rate program, but again, that is, we not only get that for internet service, but there is a category 2 that we have applied for regularly that gives us a 80% discount on equipment purchased because of our free and reduced rate for Groton Public Schools. So we have used that extensively over the years to add new networking equipment, predominantly, as well as wireless access points across the schools. So to give you I think this will work with this crowd, the Reader's Digest version of this, really the highlights for fiscal year 27 is, as you know, addressing the issue for teacher laptops, which are now entering year 5, a regular march of making sure that we have adequate modern equipment for students, specifically at the secondary levels for their day-to-day usage, i.e. Chromebooks. And in here you'll see, obviously, now that we own those off-lease laptops, we're doing the best we can to fund parts, batteries, things like that, to keep them on the road and running and so forth. So that's kind of high-level, big picture 27. 28, some of that work continues, both teacher and student devices, as well as what we're looking to do is upgrade our firewalls. So speaking of E-rate, we applied and are waiting to hear if approved.
Can you explain E-rate to people that may not know what E-rate is?
Good point. For those of you who pay for telecommunications services at home, be it Frontier or Comcast or what have you, you will often see a line or two, which is $3.95 or something. It's a USAC fund. So you all who are paying for those services pay into a federal program which provides funding for E-rate. And category 1 is traditionally internet access to a school district, to public libraries, to town buildings and so forth. And then category 2, if funding is available in a particular year, will be based on prioritized needs and include some hardware and equipment. So thank you all for paying your bills. That money is not tax money, that is service fees that go into a kitty and are approved every year. I think last year was, don't quote me on this, but I think $3.8 billion that gets then handed back out to schools and libraries and towns to offset the cost of internet access as well as other hardware equipment. Again, Groton Public Schools has historically qualified for an 80% reimbursement rate. So to make that actionable, we get a bill every month from the Connecticut Education Network for our internet access to the whole district. And we get a bill for what 20% of that costs, and they send the other 80% bill because it's been approved for that year to the federal government and their E-rate program. So that's how it's worked for about 20 years. Again, the difference this year is those are usually approved in the March-April timeframe. That has been held up in the current administration, and our last communication was a letter from Brendan Carr, who is the head of the FCC, and they are reviewing all applications and continuing to review and have claimed that there is a need for a more strict review because they're concerned about too much screen time for students at primary levels, and they're also reviewing for association with any DEI programs.
Are we collecting data?
No, please.
Are we collecting data around screen time?
No, we do not actively well, let me rephrase. We do not actively review and report. As I'm thinking about it, there could be ways that we could be looking at some of the usage patterns. Obviously, anytime anybody goes to a website or logs into a computer or something on our network, a record is created in our systems. Really, the only time that I go back and look at those things is when an incident or event calls for it, be it FOI or an incident with a student or a staff member, et cetera. So I want to think about it a little bit. You could potentially have some data. I don't think that data would be, it's more access as opposed to time on task. But so the short answer is no, with some caveats. So that's the E-rate program. We have applied for and have yet to hear if we will receive that 80% discount on the firewalls. I'm going to assume no at this point, based on the way things are going. I hope I'm wrong, and that changes. But that is a large piece of firewall. In essence, is the gatekeeper or the wall that all internet traffic coming to our district goes through. And we have policies and procedures and security measures on that to secure our networks, our end devices, software, and so forth. The highlight for fiscal year 29, in addition to the other things I mentioned, is we are, the first year I was here, so that was 5 years ago, we finished the refresh cycle of all the Promethean boards, the smart boards, if you will, in all classrooms. Those are starting to get to end of life, meaning software updates will stop sooner rather than later. I want to have a plan, at least with the board, that we will need to upgrade those at some point in the future. I would like to propose, when the time is appropriate, we have a healthy discussion about what those are. You know, are they big, bright display with touch capabilities, but not any intelligence, not a computer built into it, versus the ones that Groton had purchased prior, and I finished that. You know, there is a cost savings if it is a dumb board, my words, not anybody else's, as opposed to a smart board, meaning it's a big, bright display that you can touch, but it's run by a teacher computer or a student computer wirelessly up there. So anyway, there are ways to pull those costs down, because each Promethean board right now costs us about $3,300.
I was going to ask you, how much is that?
Approximately $3,300 per Promethean board that we have in every classroom in Groton Public Schools right now.
Now, Clint, when we were at the RTM meeting, I think it was the moderator brought up and asked us to ask you about how many Chromebooks are destroyed and damaged, on a yearly basis, because they're hearing a lot of Chromebooks are damaged and destroyed, not returned.
So, yes to damage, far less to destroyed, and there are a handful that don't get returned, and then we have a process to go after those.
And how successful are you at giving them back, and what happens?
It's a small number that aren't returned, when we have a student move out of the district or something like that. And again, we follow procedures to alert the family wherever they might be, if there's a bill waiting for them, or return the device and so forth. So those numbers are small. I don't have those off the top of my head.
Can you send them to us?
I can certainly provide those.
How many are damaged, how many are destroyed, and how many are not returned?
Yeah, I think we can break it down. Obviously, damaged devices, whether it's dropped, whether it's intentional or unintentional, we always will fix those until we literally cannot fix them anymore. I'm just making a note to make sure I get back to you all. Damaged, destroyed, and
not returned.
Yeah, and some of them are showing wear and tear because our fleet is on the older side, as we discussed.
Can I just ask a question directly relating to what you just said? So the students pay an insurance for these Chromebooks. Is that a third-party company?
No.
Oh, so they're just paying your department for your projected.
And we use them for keyboards and screens and all of that. Yeah.
All right. But the damage is somewhat subsidized by the students themselves every year by having to pay, is it $20 or something?
And it is clear on that what that covers. They have multiple instances of damage. It does not cover intentional damage. It does not cover intentional loss, or stolen property is a different story and so forth. But it also, we have a separate section for, as you just mentioned, chargers. I'm far more concerned on the number of chargers that we get displaced and get moved and so forth. And we do a regular all-call. We say, sometimes an extra one goes home because we're trying to help you get through the day and so forth, because sometimes we forget and they don't come to school fully charged. So that is even more of a concern for me than overall damage at times. But yes, there is, I also think the $20 fee is important. And of course, people could apply for financial aid and so forth, and we run that process should a family not be able to afford that. But my history in running one-to-one programs is equipment is treated better if there's some buy-in than if it's something we see or getting it for completely free. And that fee is $20 a year.
So I think having that number to supplement what gets damaged might be important. Like, how much do we collect in insurance to help offset? Because there's clearly going to be damage. Like, kids are going to drop computers. But if we are proactive in trying to offset the costs of those, I think it's important to tell the whole picture to the RTM if that's their question. So
Has the RTM requested that information? Yeah, I will. Give me a little time, and I'll put together a report.
Okay.
Other than that, some of the big picture items. Next section, we're going to talk about AI, which is obviously a very large discussion topic. Good, bad, indifferent, ugly, maybe across the board in what I do and what society's dealing with and so forth. But there is obviously, I think, what follows some of the attempts by this board and many boards as far as cell phone usage goes in schools. There is a movement afoot to limit that screen time, specifically at the primary level.
We already see that in our universal pre-K.
Yep. So we're trying to follow that trend, and forget the trend. We're trying to follow the data and the research and what that says. So again, the specific asks you're going to see from me are heavily weighted towards the secondary level, not putting in new student devices per se at the primary level. But I personally am not prepared to pull everything out in that we have curriculum programs that technology is specifically servicing. So I think that's a larger conversation that we should all continue to have so that we're all on the same page, obviously led by Anne Marie and so forth, but where we're headed with all this. So, like there, in the current operating budget that was just approved and just rolled over for this coming year, there is $0 for technology-related devices at the primary level.
Yeah, that's a good topic to talk about. If we cannot have any screen time on from pre-K to, say, kindergarten at least, you know what I mean? No screen time at all. Books, and socialization. Make them have screen time at home and not at school.
You have to see Toy Story 5. The toys correct the screens, the technology screen.
I mean, but I'm talking about if we can do it in our schools.
Yeah. I think we definitely see a movement towards that. And we see it in pre-K. They really just have a set of Chromebooks that are going to be, or a set of iPads that will be in the library media center if they need them. Their screens are only used for interactive kinds of things, and the rest is going to be, play and socialization and Haggerty and sound and literacy and math.
I'd like IT to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah.
My last comment on this.
Jenny has a question.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, because you might answer it.
This is just e-reading. There is a move afoot, and I'm not asking, I'm just informing. You can go to saveourerate.com, and as a board member, you can share your opinions, whatever they might be. Kind of like, I don't care how you vote, but please vote. Same thing. There is a move afoot to comment so that the FCC, specifically in Brendan Carr, understands our opinions on the E-rate program, and I would argue the context with which it has benefited Groton Public Schools over the last 20 years, and many other schools.
Yeah, so that in the back of you. All right, Jimmy.
So when I think of technology purchasing, right, and long term, maybe, and not for this, right, you could, like our printers, right? I don't know if you're responsible for that. And then
It does fall under the IT department, yes.
the printers, the PCs, any of the hardware, software, just general overview, like, hey, this is what I'm thinking, moving more from owning, and I think this is where you are, moving more from owning data to just like resources. So then you know, like, oh, we're going to have like ongoing costs in here, but in the long run, you get more current data, whatever it can be.
That is the advantage to leasing,
Yeah.
is that it's a smaller amount each year that you can count on me coming back to, as opposed to feast or famine.
So
There are arguments for and against that, but the vast majority of the school districts that I interact with and am aware of and so forth have switched to it for staff devices, to a leasing model. Leasing gets a little more interesting when they are student devices, just because of the turnover. A student, anytime they have damage or need to be repaired or whatever, we don't necessarily give them back the same exact device. We clean it up, we repair it, and we give them what's next up, which, living in a Chrome OS world, makes that much easier as opposed to a traditional Windows.
So that's what I was sort of thinking, not just like this component, like your total vision of how you would like it.
I'm happy
so
to
that
see-
we can support you from a budget perspective.
I appreciate that, and I'm happy to elaborate that more on, and when we come back and talk about IT budget in the fall, if that works.
Yeah, no, yeah, not right now,
Yeah.
you know.
So your possible discussion topics are for a future date, like lease versus buying?
I was trying to put some conversation out there. These are some of the things that we don't necessarily have answers to. If I don't, or if I told you I had the exact right answer, you should tell me I'm wrong, but that we should be thinking about and are coming to us. You know, screen time, especially at primary grade levels, certainly AI. What our funding model is overall in Groton Public Schools. Certainly lease versus buy, but there's also, again, we have used heavily the impact aid dollars to fund the technology program. As long as I've been here, and based on the history that I know, maybe even going back to when I was a board of ed member in Groton, that has been a way that we've helped offset the cost of the technology.
Any other questions for Dr. Kennedy? So on the operating budget, you have NA, so that means the board's not going to have to put any money into IT
That was for fiscal
operating?
year 27.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you recall, we moved, well, this board removed technology dollars for the teacher leasing as well as Chrome OS student devices, because we said we were going to use the impact aid dollars that we are hoping arrive August, September time. In time for all teaching and learning with technology PD Day, November 3rd.
Oh, gee. Talk about a tight timeline. Save your prayers.
Do you have an idea, like if we don't get that E-rate, how much more that's going to cost us?
So it will impact us, because instead of paying 20% of our internet access, it would be 100%. It is something, but it's not six figures.
Okay.
What it also, though, does is it would be, it would take away we've applied for Category 2 funding for new firewalls, and I'm hoping that comes through, but we are not, this is advanced planning. We are continuing to get updates that the firewalls work. They are not out of service. They are not out of date for updates. We are good. But that is not something that I can let roll too long.
Okay. Adrian, you had your hand up?
Oh, and I don't know if this, well, I guess it's kind of related. Is there a way with a town, because rather than us having to not really know if we're going to get that impact aid, and then having to budget for it, but then, it seems variable for your department to have to depend on that. Is there a way we can talk to the town about just including our budget and what we need, and agreeing that impact aid money will go to the town, but basically just taking the variability of that out of our budget, by just including what our actual need is, and then if the impact aid money comes in, we give it back to the town because we say we included it to start, which would work in an ideal world when our budget isn't cut.
I'm really not thinking that's the one supplement that we do receive, that in special ed, and I'm not thinking that is going to be there might be something else that comes along that the board would rather spend that money on at some point.
Well, to this point, it hasn't been the board spending the money. It happens, outside of our budget. So,
Right.
So my rationale is just so that we can try to be a little. The town has the excess funds, and they have a cushion, and they can just change the rate where we really can't. And it would be, in my opinion, just better if we could just budget for what we need. And, if there was some way that money just went to the town, but they would budget for it in the assumption that we're going to get it, and if we don't get it, the town would basically have to adjust their budget versus us. It's difficult.
With it the next year, believe me.
Well, it's just difficult for us to budget because we can't control income. We can only control that one number that gets voted on in the end of May. So, if the town were basically willing to take the kind of the variability on that, it'd be no extra cost to the taxpayer, and would help us run a tighter budget, which I think the town would appreciate. Tighter, more
So you
transparent
would
budget.
want the town, you would want us to budget whatever we needed, say in Clint's budget too, and then when impact aid came, the town would keep the impact aid money.
Yeah, we'd make an agreement for that money to go back to the town. So this year, the board pulled the money out of Clint's budget in anticipation that we were going to get the impact aid. I would rather not do that. I would rather just assume we're going to get the impact aid, budget for what we need, and if it doesn't come in, we don't have to cut services. Is the real thing. Is the real reason.
We still got 800,000 cut, and so I don't know that there would be cuts even with that being said.
Hopefully next year we'll have a much smaller increase, and maybe we'll have a budget discussion where we can kind of roll that together with the town. I think if we were asking for a 4% increase or something like that, it'd be much easier to ask, for that kind of trade-off, for them to just accept some of the variability in those funds, and not really leave it on us to have to chase $500,000 if it doesn't come in, because that's a lot of money for us to find.
Well, that's a discussion you can have with John, you'll agree that.
Yeah, I just need to think this through. I think I'll reach out to my national organization because they have other insight that happens basically around the country with impact aid that's different from what happens here. So I would want to study that a little further.
Yeah.
Ian?
Yeah, thank you. I just appreciate all the conversation and everything. And actually, that idea that Asia just brought up is very interesting to me. And so I would be in support of looking at that further. Other than that, I just wanted to sign off. I'm expected somewhere else now, so I got to take off, unfortunately. I thought I'd circle back to the meeting still happening, similar to maybe about 30 minutes or so, but appreciate everyone coming out tonight. Thank you. Take care.
So it's 8:12. Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Kennedy? Nope. Okay.
Would you like to move on to?
Move on to AI.
Okay, so next agenda item, kind of an update from our AI committee. This is a summary, if you will, of 5 months of work, more or less. If you remember, the board approved our current AI policy in February, and we met monthly, and these are the general findings of what we've come up with. If I could direct your attention to, under the executive summary, kind of the 4 guiding principles, that was really, we kind of fell upon these in the first couple months of conversations. These are by no means the only principles or not subject to change, but we were trying to have some foundational pieces that were we're basing our educational approach to this. So those, just to ground you, those are kind of the four main buckets, if you will. This memo does include considerable information around the findings from the surveys that we did. We surveyed 3 main groups with the intention of doing a fourth of students come fall with advanced parental notification. So we went after certified staff, we went after parents, and then we also did a paras and tutors group. So that is what you're seeing there. If I may summarize a bit around our conversations as well as some of the findings and so forth, I don't know if there's a topic that I see more variance in people's opinions and understandings and so forth than what generative AI means specifically in an educational context. There is a lot of fear out there. There is a lot of anxiety. There is a lot of excitement. So that's really what I mean by this variance. Even within our own committee, and Adrian, feel free to comment, there is some very strong opinions across the board, as opposed to as far as the appropriateness goes, as far as what this means for teaching and learning, what this means for job futures, copyright, et cetera, et cetera. We're also seeing out there where large school districts like Boston their Board of Education has put it in policy where AI literacy is a graduation requirement, and we're seeing other school districts around the country saying, no AI, blue books, paper and pencil, and we're going back to that. So I guess the TLDR on this is this is an ongoing work. We think it's very important to be very communicative to parents, to staff, and so forth, to understand what our kind of rules of engagement are for this coming school year. We think it's very important that there are opportunities to safely engage with this technology and understand what it can do, what it can't do, and what that means. And to really continue this conversation, again, because of how the variance that we're seeing right now in this. If anybody sees a through line and knows exactly how we should be moving forward, arm in arm together, I would love to have that conversation. But because we don't, I believe, and I believe the committee believes we don't have that, I think this is the best way forward to continue to work with this, learn, understand together, and be better informed to make smart decisions on this topic.
I have to also commend you because you've done a really great job guiding the admin team during retreat and admin council meetings, and also providing professional learning for our staff and teachers, and it's been well received. And I think that you put it in terms of, how do we do this carefully but accurately, and make sure that we've got our research behind it. So the professional learning I see is really important for us first, and I think that was our first step, so that we would get more familiar and comfortable and know the ins and outs. Not that we're all experts at it, but
it's a rapidly moving target too.
Fast-paced, yes.
When you do professional learning, do you include the paraprofessionals?
I haven't historically. We've done some very general stuff, but if you see the results from the data, they are asking for more, and we plan on baking that into the plan for this coming year.
This coming year?
Yes. I don't think I'm going to be doing my job if we don't have opportunities for certified staff, for parents and tutors, as well as parents. I don't know exactly what that looks like for parents yet, forgive me, but there's based on the survey results, I think there's a real need to have opportunities for parents to engage in this, comment, learn with because there is anxiety and fear out there. There is a concern that if my child isn't familiar with this and is able to utilize this, then they're somehow at a disadvantage in the world, in the workplace. But then there's also the real concern that if they're using this and we don't change anything else, then cognitive load goes to nothing. We all know learning is hard, and that is the way you learn.
Kids are talking about AI in elementary school,
Oh, that's good. So you're going to include the parents.
Correct.
Now, when you say on the spring 2026 review of stakeholder feedback, how did you get the stakeholder feedback?
We did online surveys.
And what was your result of the survey? How many
So
people
I have all the raw
responded?
data. This should provide some basic highlights from that, some of the key findings. If you go down to the key findings section, bottom of page 1, you'll see I grouped it by parents and community, should say parents and community survey. Those are the key findings, teachers and certified staff, and paraprofessionals and tutors. Those bullets come directly from the survey, a summary of the survey results. And we have all the raw data too.
And but how many people responded to the survey?
Forgive me, I should have put an N on here. We had, I think, 450 teachers in the teacher bucket. I think we had 200 to 225 of parents. And I think we had about 150 pairs and tutors.
Pretty good result.
That's
Please don't quote me on those. I know it's being recorded. I'm having to get the actual ends to that, so that's off the top of my head. Forgive me.
And on page, I guess it's page 3, up on the top, it says expand opportunities for educators to explore approved AI tools through structured sandbox. What's that?
So we have some more advanced tools and some things that aren't necessarily we're saying should be used day to day in the classroom, but we want to make sure that it's not just IT people or administrators, but actual teachers, paras, tutors having hands-on experience. It's a lot of what I've been doing in my professional development classes throughout the year.
Yeah.
There's some stretch goals, and we try some new things, and I always say, guys, this is what's kind of on the bleeding edge. I don't think this is ready for prime time, but you should understand and have an experience for where this is headed.
Okay. I have another question, but I'll let Adrian go. Go ahead, Adrian.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to kind of ask, so are there any actual hard guidelines for teachers or students right now that says, like, this is in bounds with AI and this is out of bounds?
So currently, as of today, no. The plan is to use this summer to draft some of those, have a committee review those, and really start sharing those up at the start of the school year through that November 3rd PD day.
All right. So
that is one of the things, sorry to cut you off, but that is one of the things that's come out of this. People, they say, I want to follow the rules, I'm not quite sure what those are. And for us to be fair to them, we should provide them with some rules around that.
yeah, and I asked that question because I kind of thought that, and I feel like we're at a point where we need some, like, certainly the teachers are, earning of flexibility because they're going to know. I know that AI works great for, like, elementary kids to make stories that focus on a certain, very simple stories that focus on a certain skill. And then the teacher can look those over and be like, oh, these are great, and I'm going to have my kid work with it. So we need to, like, allow that type of stuff to happen, but should AI be able to grade, like, an essay test, which, having students in the district, I've seen, or at least have my students, my children report back that that's happening sometimes. Is that right? I don't know. Maybe we need some policy.
I think we should address the assessment piece of it very clearly in our feedback to staff, because I share some of those same concerns. I personally love the AI tools to do a full first cut of grammar, punctuation, spelling, where a teacher can then have more time to get to the art and the science of writing, or something like that.
Yeah.
We need to be clear about that, but let's let the tools do what they're good at, still providing feedback, while the teacher leans into what they're an expert in their field and so forth to help with that. I can see a balance. Again, that's my opinion. This is a committee that should be making those decisions, but that's where I kind of come down on that.
Yeah. So, as a board member, I would, urge, go on the side of caution to a no. And specifically, what you're talking about is like the cognitive load of an 8th grade student having to really work at coming up with ideas for a story, or asking AI, can you give me 3 ideas for a story about whatever? Well, all of a sudden, that student didn't really miss the whole part of thought, and that may have significant effects down the line, which we don't understand yet. So I feel like Especially I think we should go back to blue books in elementary school and middle school, or at least middle school where we really, where we really need those, and then high school to some extent.
I understand.
There's a lot of notebooks in elementary and middle school. They're using a lot of notebooks for science and literacy and everything.
The field of instruction with AI is still very early, but there is some early research-backed guidance about for teachers to be thoughtful about the usage of this, giving students permission at times. As a summative assessment, let's let the AI answer the question, and now let's critique their answer. That's a end of unit, I should have learned and grown and so forth to do that. Let's not start with that at the beginning, nor at the foundational piece, and we're taking on a new topic or something. That should be your ideas, your collaboration and so forth, and then blend that AI in afterwards. I think.
Yeah. To be clear, I use AI to come up with ideas, but I don't know that an eighth grader should do that.
The genie is not going back in the bottle, so to speak. So I think we need to, for our students and for our society, we need to continue to wrestle with this to make sure we're making informed, smart decisions, and knowing we may not always get it right because it is changing so quickly.
Mitch?
I got nothing.
Anybody else?
No.
No. Okay. I just have one question. When you say continue district-wide conversations, how does that happen?
So I'm working, I am one of those kind of through points, leading the committee, running professional development, working with administrative teams and so forth. So you're kind of looking at that key person. But there are, Anne Marie's having conversations about it. I know Susan is having conversations around it. I have one-on-ones with principals all the time because they're taking incoming questions from their staff and so forth. So it really implies that there are conversations happening and directed by us, but also incoming because staff and students are asking questions, as they should.
Who's on your committee, Cliff?
I have a full list. We have a member right here. It's a variety of teachers, IT folks, parent, and so forth. So I am hoping, because we're going to reconstitute it, because I told everybody the commitment was through June, and we are reconstituting it now. I'm going to be sending out information to people. There's a lot going on, and a lot of people do a lot of different work, but I am going to redouble my efforts because I was not super excited about the total numbers of that committee. Just because I think it's important not that other people don't think it's important, but there's a lot going on. But we will continue to push that.
Do you have a paraprofessional? Do you reach out to them?
I don't think we had a standing para. I did some shoulder tapping because we had some informal groups that I've been helping run over the last 2 years before the policy was in place. And then I did an all call. But we're going to make sure parent, para, tutor, teachers, I'd love to consider students as part of that as well.
Yeah, that'd be good.
It's not that we don't want that, but sometimes it's organizationally and moving forward. It's that balance between all-inclusive as well as agile to move forward.
Jen, you have a question?
You said you weren't thrilled about the number of committee members.
Yeah,
Approximately, you could give a range.
We had about 8 to 10 that were part of the conversation.
Sort of fair.
Yeah, I'd like 20. But
What, 20? Okay, goal's 20.
that's my personal goal.
Sometimes it's like
20
many
active,
cups.
thoughtful members that have all sorts of varying opinions so that we can ask the right questions.
Okay.
Sure.
And then you had mentioned about the parents earlier on and trying to engage. Maybe work with Rebecca as part of communications.
Absolutely.
'Cause sometimes we, because I'm on the communication, so Sean, have it, refer it to us and we can work with her.
I think that's a good idea, and I'm looking for opportunities not just to inform, which is important, but also to truly engage. So that this was great because we got a lot of questions that I didn't assume parents were thinking out there. So that was helpful, but this needs to be ongoing. It can't be a one-off. And we know exactly what parents are thinking. We're good, and we'll design for that. So
That's it. Thank you.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Sean?
No.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. King.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay. Next item You want to talk about food service program?
Sure. So I met with Ernie, and he wanted to remind you that breakfast is universal for everyone next year through the state, and children don't have to pay. You know, we have 4 schools that are CEP eligible, community eligible programs based on their number of free and reduced lunch, and there are 4 title schools. So it's Catherine Kolnowski, Thames River Magnet, Mystic River Magnet, and Groton Middle School. The high school had been, but then their numbers varied so that they were no longer eligible. So what that means is that all children in those schools get free breakfast and free lunch.
Sure.
Is there any hope that a rerunning of the data that can happen for the high school that could get us free and reduced lunch for all?
I think each year we look at the data, so I did ask Ernie if we could do that again, and it requires that parents fill out those forms, and that's a big piece of it, or that they have SNAP benefits, and we have 1,000 children that are military dependent that automatically don't get SNAP benefits because they get TRICARE instead of Husky. So a lot of the kids who have SNAP benefits are because of their insurance that they automatically get it. So collecting that data and proving that point is a little harder, even though many might be eligible.
Yeah.
So that's tricky. So he wanted to also say that required by law are the price of the meals, and in this Appropriations Act for 26-27, it had required for 2 years that we bump it up 10 to 12 cents, and we did not bump up any cost. So now it's caught up with us, and he has to upgrade to 25 cents. So that's kind of the flat rate across the board. I think you got a little chart in your board packet, or you should have gotten a chart.
No, we didn't get anything.
I will send the chart then. He gave it to me, and I thought it was already in the board pack. So Fitch High School for 26-27 will go from $2.75 to $3. Groton Middle School is CEP eligible, so is Catherine Kolnowski, so they don't have a price right now. Charles Barnum goes from $2.25 to $2.50. Mystic River is CEP eligible. Northeast Academy is the other paying school. That's also $2.25 to $2.50. And Thames River is community eligible. We will have to see if Mary Morrison, because the Mary Morrison is the requirement of the Office of Early Childhood is that we try to get as close to the 60% mark of free and reduced lunch. And our district is really around there. We go between 50, 55%, sometimes up to 60, depending on the year. And it does vary, and I think it varies based on collecting the data more than anything. That people filling out those forms is really essential. So we'll do a really good job of trying to get that done. So those were the breakfast prices. I apologize. Lunches for next year at Fitch are $4 to $4.25.
But the breakfast is free for everybody.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why I said that, but that's what it would have been had it not been universal. So he must have put that in before. Charles Barnum goes from $3.50 to $3.75. Northeast goes $3.50 to $3.75, and the others were community eligible. So I will get you this sheet. And he did study the people who have paid and not paid, and he said that with the unpaid balances that there are families out there that just didn't pay and they could have paid, or maybe they didn't fill out the form. We do share the form if they are having a struggle paying, and try to assist families. So that level of support is in the food service department.
Well, Adrian had a good suggestion about automatic payment.
Yeah, I did like that too.
Is that a possibility that probably Rita can look into, see if that can happen?
I'll have Rita and Ernie look into that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adrian?
Yeah, so we talked about this in finance and facilities, and one idea was that the parents just give a credit card and it just gets billed every month or whatever. But I was going to, I'm using that as a start to say, maybe before school starts or right on the first day of school, if we were to send every parent a packet saying, all right, we're getting ready for school, your kids are going to get like books and pick up this stuff, and either fill out a form that says this is how you're going to pay for lunch, or an application for free and reduced lunch, so that they basically have to make a decision in the beginning of September on how they're going to deal with school lunch for the year, and just say we'd like to have something set up, even if you're going to do, bag lunch for the days that your student might get lunch. So I'm just thinking that we just make it an expectation for parents, like on day one, that you have to set this up. Just like it's an expectation for parents to get a laptop to pay $20 for insurance on that laptop, you're going to get school lunch. And obviously there's guardrails on what we can actually do, but we can at least set the expectation right from the beginning that somehow school lunch has to get paid for. Maybe doing that will help. Some families just say, all right, well, I can fill out this form and get it paid for, or I have to give a credit card. I'm going to fill out the form and try to get free and reduced, which I think will help us in more.
Since we've done that already for the families that have enrolled into the pre-K program, we have a chart that shows them that they would be eligible if they could check off. They have a guidance, a chart of how you would become eligible, and so they have to check off if they thought they would be eligible or not, and then we'll be able to send out the forms to those who think that they would be eligible ahead of time. So, because that could be a population of kids who could be CEP eligible.
Yeah, but maybe if they're looking at it next to a bill, they'll be more apt to fill it out.
Well, that's
or not a bill, but just a promise to pay with their credit card number or something like that.
Did we talk about this? Can they pay by Venmo and PayPal?
Right now, Rita said no.
Right now they can't. Okay.
No, but I think that would make a difference.
Yeah, it's easier for them.
Can I just make a comment on what you had said, they're going to determine if they're eligible, then we send them the form, so that's an extra step. It's almost like, just fill out the form and we'll tell you if you're eligible.
So we can't have them fill out the form yet, and we needed to collect that data early. They can't fill out the form until the new form comes, and that's in July, August. So we needed to find that data out for the grant to see how many people we thought would be eligible.
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying is, like you said, that whenever you have your first interaction with them, you'd be like, oh, we're going to find out if you're eligible, then we would send you a form. By then you've lost them, right?
Well, you can't, I'm trying to explain that these forms come out once a year in July, so we wouldn't have them fill out last year's form.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, say September in open house or August when you send out the packages.
They will get that.
It's a one-time because you've captured it, so it's not 2 contact points, because then it will just be like toss out.
Yeah, because you said that you asked them, do they think they'd be eligible, and then you give them the form. Jen's saying to send them the form without, do you think you're eligible?
I needed to collect that information, though I didn't make it clear ahead of time for the grant. So that's why we were asking them if they thought they would be eligible.
Yeah.
But then we will send it out in the beginning of the year.
And I mean, other ideas is like in those open houses, have Ernie or his team, and maybe they're already there.
They're there.
And then you just have free food because people will come to your table if you have food.
That's a good idea. Ernie tries to get it to all the open houses. He's really good that way.
Yeah, that's good.
Fill out the form and get your cookie.
Adrian, were you all set with your questions?
Yeah, that was, I was just going to expand on what
I had one more thing, too. At Finance and Facilities, I think it was you had made the suggestion that Ernie should survey to see what other schools or districts were charging, because maybe whatever it is, $375 is low and everybody else is charging $425, and that was just an option. Not saying that we're going to do that, but that you had asked them to do that.
Yeah, I had written down here, did we receive answers to our questions at finance and facilities? I didn't see any answers yet, but anyway.
Anyway.
So I want the public to know that we are $68,000 in debt for unpaid school lunches, and it has to come out of our budget.
I know we tried to do some things with
Go ahead, Mitch.
I was just thinking, is that we've exhausted all our possibilities of going after those people.
Well, you can't go to the collection agency. You can't deny the students lunch. He sends them letters.
They work really hard.
They do work really hard.
Yeah. He sends them information with Parent Square. I mean, and if you have any ideas, let us know.
This might be at finance and facilities.
All right. Do you have any ideas? Bring them up.
Bike and, $2, $2.
And the other thing I was going to say is I know we talked to like Senator Saunders and some others about doing some fundraisers, but that just didn't.
Yeah, that didn't pan out. Yeah.
We did have a very generous donor, though, I have to say, and she contributed $4,000 to the unpaid road, and she was a retired teacher, and so we really appreciated
Oh,
that.
that was nice. Okay, the next one is short and sweet, hopefully.
Short and very sweet.
End of the year celebrations, attachment parade.
You can put it up and we'll go through this pretty quickly. They've actually seen it. So we're just going to flip through it. So if you haven't had a chance to view this, whoops, if you go back to, yep. Can you stop the video because we can't even hear it? So if you just stop it, we'll just go through the slideshow part. But this is pictures from the whole year. Rebecca and the principals and all of us do a really good job capturing, Mark Russell, capturing all the little highlights. And we usually send out a video like this around usually November, December, and then we also capture it for the end of the year. Can you just run the slideshow itself for us? There you go. And can you, yep. So we always start with the strategic plan and the pillars. And actually, when we look at the celebrations at the end of the year and the highlights, it really touches every single one of our pillars. It, really looks at the academic progress, and you see a lot of the academic work. You see the belonging and the sense of culture and climate. You see it through the clubs and activities and the arts and the music and the sports and all the things that kids are involved in the school day and beyond the school day. Really the pathways, the career pathways, you see multiple examples of that. And, all the way to facilities and, our buildings and our interactions with our teachers and staff. So I think this gives us a show of all of that, so we'll move on. And then hats off, there's a link there, so if you haven't had a chance to watch a little clip of this, it's really fun to watch, and you might even see some kids you know. And then next we have continuing with our graduation. We were so happy that we had a sunny day, and going with that 4:30 time zone was pretty good, but we did there were threats of storms, but fortunately we had that beautiful day. And then we'll just continue. Can we turn the slide? I wish I had the clicker.
Next slide, please.
Next slide. Hello?
That's why.
Mark, can you? I know, but I just,
That's why we said.
I don't know what that is.
It sounds like Mickey Mouse.
There's a technical difficulty.
I think we must have technical difficulty.
All right.
But I just wanted to say that
Printout.
Yeah, we have the print.
we have the printout, and, you know, I would just say that one of the things that I did mention, and I shared this with the RTM, and you were very responsive, but we did talk about seeing some real successes, and I'm looking forward to sharing that information with you. Anne Marie and I have looked at the data carefully, and she's ready to go as soon as it's unembargoed. So
Okay.
we'll be bringing it to you, the data.
Okay. Referral list. Adrian, you said you had some referrals?
Yeah, I mean, these are the things that you know, that we've talked about in some of the GA, the CA, the AGSA, those liaison meetings, but the board having a little bit more significant of an attendance policy. I didn't realize this, but there are students that miss like 100 days in pass. And, you know, we know that there's other states in the union, like, you know, not that I think that we should go the way of Mississippi, but they've been very successful with reading because you have to pass a test to go to fourth grade. And I don't think we should do that. But I think attendance, saying that, you know, I mean, we have lots of kids that are missing more than 10%, but maybe there needs to be a line in the sand that says, if you don't show up this many days, you'll be repeating that grade again next year, and that for the parents as well as the students, and that you know, may have some negative effects, and there may be some upset students, but I think that will also support our teachers, because kids can't learn when they're not in schools, and they have negative effects on education altogether. So, so I would like, and I guess that would be maybe if there's board agreement on that, just go to policy and have policy look at that.
I think that the teachers also said that when the kids, I have to look at my notes, are absent, they refer them to special ed because of their absenteeism.
I haven't heard, that's not so.
I
don't remember that.
Okay, well, I can ask.
But we could ask somebody to be a representative, you know, in that, you know, to speak to policy, you know, if there's any kind of consensus between teachers, you know, on where a line in the sand might be. But I, you know, I think right now our policy is kind of vague and it's left on regulation. But maybe if we had something a little bit stronger, we can get kids into school. And then,
Yeah, they said that special education teachers have to do testing for students who have an absentee issue. Referral to special ed. My notes from the AGSA meeting on May 28th.
oh,
I'd have to investigate that.
I wonder if that was just in a slightly,
Yeah.
or maybe there was more context to that where I'm not understanding it. But yeah, we can. But either way, attendance. And then the other thing, and I think Jay kind of mentioned this, but since we're going to be talking about test scores, maybe we could talk with the district about other metrics that might be able to measure student educational success. Because we know.
They give you, did you find it, the button yardstick?
I do believe that Joyce found it, but I don't think she has a digital copy. I'll have to find out if we can.
Because that would be something good. You might not have it digital, but if you can print it out or something.
Yeah.
Because we spent a lot of time doing that.
Or scan it to PDF.
Yes,
I
yeah.
said that a lot of what the state is doing is very much like the yardstick. It's looking at fitness, it's looking at opportunities, it's looking at other variabilities besides just test scores.
Yeah.
Education, the arts, access, like lots of other things too that were typical that we were looking at when we had the yardstick.
Well, we could, I don't know the curriculum.
I don't know, but I'm just thinking that to make those meetings a little bit more positive, because, you know, we're told that there's lots of other ways of measuring success. And maybe when those meetings come through, we can sprinkle other ways of measuring success, because, it's not all numbers. Students aren't numbers, and we need to look at more than that.
Well, hopefully we can get that Groton yardstick, and then you all can take a peek at it, and then you'll see other ways to...
Yeah, but I guess to just have that included in presentations. And then my other request was something I already mentioned, but just the discussion of world language offerings on the referral tracking sheet, on the COW, I guess that's going to get a line through it, but I think it really needs to say curriculum committee with a date of November 3rd, 2025.
I'm sending it back to curriculum.
Yeah, no, that's fair, but it's going to go in the record. That if somebody wants to refer back to a meeting, they can do it accurately from these notes.
Okay. Anyone else for referrals?
No, except like maybe we could remove the purchased land adjacent to Fitch, because athletic fields.
Is that on COW?
That's why...
Facilities.
Oh, you do that in your own committee.
Oh, you do that? Okay,
Yeah.
you just remove it?
Yeah, just remove it in your own
Okay.
committee, okay? If you did it,
Well, no, but...
I think Dr. Ackerman has her hand.
Yes.
yeah. But we can remove it now, since we're here. Purchase of land. Okay. Dr. A, you have your hand up?
I guess not. No, I don't.
Oh, okay. All right. So, we still have robotics on COW. We still have Early Childhood Center, exit survey. Hopefully we'll do that in August. This is going to curriculum, world language. Tier 2, we still got to keep that on. And, okay. All right. Doctor, anything else? Okay. Dr. A, you want to make your motion? Okay, it's 8:50, and we second. Mitch? Okay. Dr. A, all those in favor? Aye. All right, we're going to adjourn. Thank you, everyone.